Indeed, life and death are the essence of the Tao. San Sheng murmured, the world is boundless, divided into three realms, yin, yang, and the rebirth realm. All things in the world revolve, with life and death. There are world creators who bring life into existence from nothingness. And there is the existence of, return to nothingness, which seems to be constantly reducing the three realms of yin and yang to zero. This is the ultimate truth, the law, the great Tao. For beings like the Heavenly Emperor, who have reached the sixth stage of Yang God, there seems to be nothing in the world that can challenge them. Solving the problem of, return to nothingness, has become their path. Hearing San Sheng's murmurs, the Heavenly Emperor seemed lost in thought. San Sheng's words had given him many insights. Although he might have heard similar words from others before, San Sheng was different. His words seemed to carry a special kind of magic, capable of triggering sudden enlightenment. San Sheng, thank you for imparting the Tao, the Heavenly Emperor said. San Sheng smiled, indifferent, as if he was still pondering how to reach a higher realm or how to deal with, return to nothingness. Coincidentally, the Origin Mountain is opening, and I will grant you a spot, the Heavenly Emperor said. On the Origin Mountain, there is a being you might find interesting, somewhat similar to what you just mentioned about, a whale's death nourishing all life. The Origin Mountain is the beginning of everything, the Tao of, one begets all. On the Origin Mountain, there are traces left by beings above the fifth stage of Yang God. Any living being seeking to break through to a stage above the fifth level of Yang God would go to the Origin Mountain to observe these traces and seek the method of breakthrough. However, not everyone has the qualification to enter when the Origin Mountain opens. There are countless fifth-stage Yang God powerhouses in the world. After all, once one reaches the level of Yang God, as long as they don't court death, their lifespan is infinite. They can slowly break through. Because of this, the number of powerhouses in the world keeps increasing. Various miraculous Tao techniques and divine abilities have sprung up like mushrooms after rain. These Tao techniques and divine abilities are immensely powerful, and most emphasize eradicating the root of the problem. Thus, when two powerhouses fight, they can destroy endless matter and true spirits. Not only do they annihilate their enemies' physical bodies, but they also obliterate their true spirits. This, to some extent, aids the spread of, return to nothingness. When the young man heard that the Heavenly Emperor had granted San Sheng a spot to enter the Origin Mountain, his eyes lit up with joy. San Sheng, you can go to the Origin Mountain. Doesn't that mean our lineage might produce a being above the fifth stage of Yang God? The young man's happiness was unrestrained. Although the fifth stage of Yang God is already the pinnacle, who wouldn't want to reach an even higher realm? After all, that is the true summit, the rarest of the rare. Eternal and unchanging, there are records of fifth-level Yang God powerhouses falling. But the sixth level of Yang God is almost unimaginable. If San Sheng were to reach the sixth level of Yang God, the benefits for their lineage would be immense and incalculable. San Sheng responded, seemingly lost in thought. Haha, our lineage will finally produce a being above the fifth level of Yang God. The young man laughed maniacally, almost crazed. There are countless fifth-level Yang God powerhouses in the world, but the number of sixth-level Yang God beings is only in the single digits. San Sheng, this time, you must reach the sixth stage of Yang God. The young man's face was twisted with excitement. Among the many fifth-level Yang God powerhouses in the world, the chance to reach the sixth level is extremely rare. But when it comes to San Sheng, everyone knows that once he enters the Origin Mountain, he will undoubtedly reach the sixth level of Yang God. This time, as you journey to the Origin Mountain, I, along with our ancestors and the entire lineage's resources, will escort you there. The young man's earlier madness faded, replaced by solemn determination. San Sheng was the hope of their lineage. He was the only one in their lineage with the potential to reach a higher realm. If San Sheng succeeded, the future of their lineage would be unimaginable. Their achievements, in the mortal world, would be akin to the merit of supporting a rising dragon. San Sheng's journey to the Origin Mountain would undoubtedly attract assassins. There would certainly be those who did not wish to see another sixth-level Yang God powerhouse emerge in the world. The young man's figure vanished, and soon, in countless spaces, many ancient beings who had been dormant for who knows how long began to awaken. San Sheng can go to the Origin Mountain. Haha, I never thought I would live to see this day. I will stake my life to ensure he reaches the Origin Mountain. Above the fifth level of Yang God, the powerhouses of this lineage, at this moment, set aside their differences and reached a consensus. Their sole goal was to escort San Sheng to the Origin Mountain. As for the expectations of these elders, Sansheng paid no mind. At this moment, what occupied his thoughts was not reaching the 6th level of Yang God, but rather the concept of return to nothingness and other matters. The number of supreme powerhouses in this world is too many. It's becoming overcrowded, Sansheng murmured. He looked around and saw people crowded together, creatures packed tightly. The masses struggled bitterly. Some, just born, had not even experienced the world before being caught in the crossfire of battles between powerhouses, their entire worlds vanishing. Matter destroyed, true spirits extinguished. Return to nothingness. What others might see as oppression or conflicts of interest, Sansheng saw as return to nothingness. Every moment, the world was returning to nothingness, tending toward zero. As if all things were merging into one. How can we stop, return to nothingness? Sansheng furrowed his brow in deep thought. In the distance, a stone shattered, turning into nothingness, struck by the power of a Yang God. To Sansheng, this stone had completely vanished, no longer existing, and had not transformed into anything else. Humans, living beings, how similar they are to this stone. Sansheng pondered seriously, his brilliant mind constantly searching for a solution. As time passed, the opening of the Origin Mountain drew nearer. Sansheng and his group began their journey to the Origin Mountain 49 days in advance. Except for powerhouses like the Heavenly Emperor, no matter how fast or powerful one was, it would always take 49 days to reach the Origin Mountain. During these 49 days, battles raged incessantly. Every day, 5th-level Yang God powerhouses fell. Many of the 5th-level Yang God powerhouses escorting Sansheng were also injured. Sansheng, don't worry. With us here, you will reach the Origin Mountain safely. The young man patted his chest and declared, though golden blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. The other powerhouses around him were also injured to varying degrees. Sansheng glanced at the many powerhouses, then closed his eyes, sensing the distant battles, the blood, and the fire. This path is also a path of return to nothingness, Sansheng murmured. He seemed to have realized something. There were far too many powerhouses. And powerhouses, who could manipulate time, even return to the past to protect their weaker selves, or unify timelines, had an extremely low chance of falling. But the destructive power of these powerhouses was immense. When they killed weaker beings, they obliterated their true spirits as well. Thus, the Yang world, the rebirth realm, and the Yin world had become playgrounds for powerhouses. Powerhouses acted with impunity. 49 days passed. After countless battles, an unknown number of 5th-level Yang God powerhouses had fallen. Only 27 5th-level Yang God powerhouses arrived at the entrance to the Origin Mountain. This time, 49 5th-level Yang God powerhouses had earned the right to enter the Origin Mountain. But only 27 made it this far. This showed just how perilous the journey had been. Even Sansheng, the prodigy escorted by many 5th-level Yang God powerhouses, was stained with blood. Though it was the blood of others. We have finally reached the Origin Mountain. A powerhouse trembled with emotion. This was his second time coming to the Origin Mountain. This journey had been even more dangerous than the last. His Tao body was shattered, and his true spirit was dim. This would also be his final chance to enter the Origin Mountain. I wonder if any of us will be able to reach a level above the 5th level of Yang God, a young woman sighed, her voice tinged with melancholy. Since ancient times, the Origin Mountain had opened countless times. But the number of 6th-level Yang God beings seemed to be less than the fingers on two hands. As the woman spoke, many of the 5th-level Yang God powerhouses present turned their gazes toward Sansheng. Their eyes held reverence, envy, and calm. It was clear. If anyone among them could reach a level above the 5th level of Yang God, it would likely be Sansheng. This legendary figure, the one who could guide even a 6th-level Yang God powerhouse. The Origin Mountain has opened. Sansheng's eyes sparkled with curiosity. This was his first time entering the Origin Mountain. All the powerhouses, attention was drawn to the Origin Mountain ahead, and they stepped inside. This feeling, the beginning, rebirth, all things. All the laws and rules are intertwined here. Our great Tao can all find their counterparts here. The 5th-level Yang God powerhouses carefully sensed everything, greedily absorbing the essence of the Origin Mountain. Wait, are those traces left by beings above the 5th level of Yang God? The female 5th-level Yang God powerhouse said, her eyes filled with reverence and awe. The other 5th-level Yang God powerhouses also looked at the traces, their eyes filled with either reverence or contemplation. Understanding the paths of those who came before and comprehending their own paths, of this was the purpose of their journey here. However, comprehension was difficult for them. After all, they couldn't even count the number of traces before them, let alone comprehend them. Faced with the grandeur of the 6th level of Yang God, they were like children who couldn't count, utterly lost. However, they knew that the number of traces was neither 1 nor 10, but somewhere between 1 and 10. Everyone sat down and began to observe the traces. Legend has it that one must possess one of the 10 primordial bodies to break through to a level above the 5th level of Yang God. San Sheng murmured thoughtfully. He didn't know why this thought had occurred to him, nor why he had spoken it aloud. The woman next to him heard this and seemed puzzled as to why someone of San Sheng's background wouldn't know this. She explained, partly to ingratiate herself with San Sheng. It's not that one must possess a primordial body to reach a level above the 5th level of Yang God. Rather, when one reaches a level above the 5th level of Yang God, their physique is then referred to as a primordial body. So, there are 10 beings above the 5th level of Yang God. San Sheng muttered. After all, he seemed to recall that there were 10 primordial bodies in the world. The woman shook her head. Probably not. Of course, she wasn't sure of the exact number. Some physiques were called primordial bodies simply because they were comparable to those limit-breaking physiques in the early stages, with the potential to break through the limits and surpass the peak of cultivation of the 5th level of Yang God. I see. San Sheng said no more. He looked at the traces ahead and began to study them carefully. The others did the same. Time flowed, and no one knew how many years had passed. Suddenly, San Sheng spoke. So, your name is Wu Fa. And yours is Jing. It was as if he had glimpsed the paths of 2 beings above the 5th level of Yang God. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. In San Sheng's eyes, the 2 traces, one named Wu Fa, no law, and the other, Jing, stillness, represented the laws and rules of the universe. These were the paths of the 2 beings above the 5th stage of Yang God. His eyes were filled with contemplation as he continued to delve deeper into understanding their paths. As for the other 5th stage Yang God powerhouses, their eyes were focused, seemingly lost in their own realizations. They too were attempting to comprehend the paths left by those traces. At that moment, a multicolored light fell upon San Sheng. This light was ordinary, even less intense than a basic flash spell from a Foundation establishment cultivator. Yet, all the remaining 5th stage Yang God powerhouses present turned their gazes toward San Sheng, their eyes filled with surprise and envy. What is this? The traces have shifted. Could it be that San Sheng has comprehended something? Indeed, he is the one among us most likely to reach a stage above the 5th stage of Yang God. These 5th stage Yang God powerhouses, who had lived for countless eons, were still filled with excitement at this moment. Then, a mechanical voice emerged from the light. My name is Wu Fa. Would you be willing to walk my path? The voice was mechanical, as if extending an invitation to San Sheng. The surrounding 5th stage Yang God powerhouses, upon hearing this, were filled with excitement. The stage above the 5th stage of Yang God was mysterious and unfathomable, but there were some rumors about it. To reach the 6th stage of Yang God, one either had to forge their own path or follow the path of another 6th stage Yang God powerhouse. Walking the same path did not imply superiority or inferiority. This 6th stage Yang God powerhouse named Wu Fa was inviting San Sheng, offering to share his path. Which of these 5th stage Yang God powerhouses wouldn't envy or be excited by this? If San Sheng agreed, he could instantly ascend to the 6th stage of Yang God. However, something unexpected happened. Wu Fa, conservation. Your path is not my Tao. San Sheng refused. He had already seen through Wu Fa's path. This path might be suitable for Blue Star. Wait, what was Blue Star? In any case, Wu Fa's path emphasized severing the connection between heaven and earth, eliminating all supernatural elements from the world. In other words, without supernatural factors, all living beings in the world would be ordinary mortals. Without supernatural existence, the destructive power of Tao techniques would cease to exist. It would be impossible to truly annihilate true spirits or completely destroy matter. Thus, conservation, such a path was not what San Sheng sought. If all beings were mortals, even if return to nothingness could not affect them, such a path would still be as useless as a chicken rib. San Sheng's refusal shocked all the 5th stage Yang God powerhouses present. After all, he had just rejected a path to the 6th stage of Yang God. Some of the 5th stage Young God powerhouses were so frustrated they wanted to beat their chests and take San Sheng's place in accepting the offer. Unfortunately, they were not qualified, and could only lament for San Sheng. Others, however, secretly rejoiced. If San Sheng had missed this opportunity, would he still have a chance to reach a stage above the 5th stage of Young God? But at that moment, several more beams of light fell upon San Sheng. Mysterious and profound voices, like immortal whispers, echoed. The 5th stage Young God powerhouses could not clearly hear what was being said. But they understood that these were the voices of the 6th stage Young God powerhouses, inviting San Sheng to walk their paths. The gap in talent between beings is truly vast. Which one will he choose? Those who could come to the Origin Mountain were all true prodigies, and no, prodigies couldn't even describe them. They were peerless powerhouses. But in front of San Sheng, they seemed utterly foolish. Most of them watched San Sheng, paying close attention to his choice. After all, at this moment, the traces were fluctuating, making it temporarily impossible to comprehend them. Your paths do not suit me, San Sheng still refused, without any hesitation. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of all the beings present changed. How many did he reject? Did he reject all of them? Although there were only a few beams of light, they couldn't count how many there were. But from the looks of it, San Sheng had rejected every invitation. The other 5th stage Young God powerhouses felt a mix of emotions. They coveted these paths, while San Sheng treated them as worthless. They sighed. San Sheng's rejection of so many paths showed his ambition. They too had ambition, but if it were them, they would never have rejected the invitations. No matter what, they would have ascended to the 6th stage of Young God first. As San Sheng rejected the offers, the traces on the Origin Mountain fell silent once more. Seeing this, the powerhouses couldn't help but feel regret for San Sheng, though some were secretly pleased. Would those 6th stage Young God powerhouses, having been rejected by San Sheng, choose them instead? Unfortunately, those 6th stage Young God powerhouses were not promiscuous, nor did they keep backup options. They simply fell silent. The others, seeing this, each with their own thoughts, returned to their contemplation. San Sheng did the same. However, at this moment, something peculiar was happening to him. His consciousness also came to a halt. Is it you, Jing? San Sheng spoke, his eyes filled with curiosity. Before him, there seemed to be a circle, infinitely looping. This circle was like a point, a sphere, or a higher dimensional shape. While he had not been curious about Wu Fa's trace or the other 6th stage Young God powerhouses, he was deeply curious about Jing. Jing, or stillness, refers to the cessation of all things, or the stopping of time, San Sheng murmured. Stopping time once was simple enough. A 5th stage Young God powerhouse could stop the flow of time in an entire universe. But what Jing pursued was the stillness of all things, all beings, the Origin Mountain, the 6th stage Young God powerhouses, and even, return to nothingness. When all known, unknown, unknowable, and non-knowable regions, or even nothingness, were still, that was Jing. Your path is stillness, so you no longer exist, San Sheng said. To still others, one must first still oneself. Thus, this state of stillness was quite special. You are correct. The Tao of stillness is the true great Tao. When all things are still, all beings survive. The Tao of stillness was also a Tao of time. However, it was a level above the Tao of time. Even I, lost between movement and stillness, between the past, present, and future, cannot truly comprehend the Tao of stillness. That is why I called you here. The motionless, special form spoke. Called me here. San Sheng's eyes were filled with confusion. This calling likely did not refer to the present. I observed the origin, observed the future, existing in the past, present, and future. In the final moment of stillness, I pulled a thread of hope into this realm, Jing said. The Tao of stillness was extremely difficult, and Jing had a grand wish, to still all things, which naturally included stilling other powerhouses of the same level. Thus, his path was fraught with thorns, always just one step away from success. In the final moment, he used all his Tao techniques, divine abilities, and accumulated resources to pull a thread of hope from the infinite worlds. This thread of hope was San Sheng. In other words, San Sheng's birth was the result of Jing pulling him into existence. Your talent is immense. You have the qualifications to become the true Jing, Jing said. Stillness was eternal. Stillness was everlasting. Stillness could resist, return to nothingness. Stillness was supreme. Stillness was omniscient and omnipotent. Jing seemed to see Sansheng inheriting his legacy, attaining stillness. All things would be still, but he would not. Stillness and non-stillness would be at his whim. All beings, all things in the myriad realms, would be under his control. Sorry, my path is not stillness, Sansheng shook his head. Jing was not surprised. I believe that after traversing endless years, you will eventually choose stillness. As the words fell, the so-called Jing disappeared, and a jade slip appeared in Sansheng's hand. Such powerful time energy, and stillness, Sansheng murmured. This is somewhat like a game jade slip. Is Jing hoping that I can truly comprehend time and the so-called movement and stillness through this? Sansheng muttered to himself. This game jade slip was chaotic with time. Through it, he could traverse the myriad realms and manipulate time. Past, present, and future were all in chaos. Unfortunately, this is not my path. My path is reincarnation, Sansheng declared. This game jade slip could be considered a supreme treasure, something even 6th stage young god powerhouses would covet. But Sansheng paid it no mind. His talent, his wisdom, his brilliant mind, these were his true treasures. It seems I need to formulate a plan to walk the path of reincarnation, Sansheng said softly. The comprehension on the Origin Mountain soon came to an end. Many powerhouses left in despair, while others seemed to have gained some insights, deepening their understanding of the 5th stage of Yang God. How is Sansheng? Has he reached a stage above the 5th stage of Yang God? An elder asked, his face filled with anxiety. The young man looked displeased. Sansheng hasn't come out yet. Why the rush? Even if Sansheng has gained some insights and reached the 6th stage of Yang God, it won't happen overnight. The other 5th stage Yang God powerhouses said nothing more. They were all part of Sansheng's lineage and naturally hoped he could reach the 6th stage of Yang God. Then their lineage would truly become eternal. What? Sansheng rejected the path to the 6th stage of Yang God. Not just one, he rejected all of them. Hearing this, the powerhouses of the lineage were horrified. Even the young man was somewhat surprised. However, his face showed reverence, as expected of brother Sansheng, forging his own path to the 6th stage of Yang God. The others also showed reverence. After all, if it were them, they might have chosen the paths of those 6th stage Yang God powerhouses. Of course, some were filled with regret. After all, Sansheng had been so close to becoming a 6th stage Yang God powerhouse. Their lineage would have soared to new heights. When Sansheng returned, the powerhouses did not say much. They mostly offered encouragement or showed reverence. Although they were still injured from escorting Sansheng to the Origin Mountain, no one complained. However, after an unknown amount of time, whispers finally began to spread. Return to nothingness has begun again. Despite our efforts to stop it, another universe has fallen. The Great Wall of the Dharma Immortal King cannot stop, return to nothingness. Without a 6th stage Yang God powerhouse, who can resist, return to nothingness? Sigh, if Sansheng had reached the 6th stage of Yang God, our lineage wouldn't be so helpless against, return to nothingness. We can only wait for Sansheng to reach the 6th stage of Yang God. But who knows how long that will take? Could it be that he won't be able to reach it? Don't say such things. On the other side, in his cave abode, Sansheng opened his eyes, his gaze profound. The plan is finally complete. Reincarnation should take the Yin world, the rebirth realm, and the Yang world as nodes. The first step of the plan is to enter the rebirth realm and forge reincarnation. When Yin is born, Yang dies. When Yang is born, Yin dies. All enter reincarnation. His idea was simple, to turn the rebirth realm into reincarnation. Of course, this was extremely difficult. After all, he was a being of the Yang world. Entering the rebirth realm would subject him to suppression. The second step of the plan is to understand all beings in the Yin world, the Yang world, and the rebirth realm. The essence of return to nothingness was similar to powerful beings hunting the weak, depriving them of their right to exist. He needed to understand and master the Tao techniques that annihilated true spirits and destroyed matter. Only then could he truly reincarnate those whose true spirits had been extinguished into the cycle of reincarnation. Thus, he needed to establish a Tao lineage and understand all beings. The third step of the plan is the completion of reincarnation. Sansheng murmured. At that moment, a voice emerged from the game jade slip. The reincarnation you seek is interesting, no less profound than stillness. But can you truly succeed? Walking the path of stillness, with Jing's accumulated knowledge, you have a 90% chance of success. Sansheng frowned. You have no intelligence, yet you act like a system. Being able to speak, aren't you a bit toxic? With a wave of his hand, the game jade slip fell silent. Sansheng's eyes became profound. Can I truly be called reincarnation by the world? He felt immense pressure. He also saw the elders of his lineage filled with expectations for him. He saw countless beings perishing in return to nothingness. What he sought also required understanding the essence of all sixth-stage young god powerhouses. This was to make enemies. Backup plan. If reincarnation fails, then cycle. If reincarnation failed, he would use the cycle to achieve the Tao and resist return to nothingness. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. The young man returned from the front lines, bearing injuries. Even though he had reached the 5th stage of young god and possessed unparalleled combat power, he still suffered wounds when facing return to nothingness. How is Sansheng? The young man asked. Since Sansheng had returned from the origin mountain, he had been in seclusion, contemplating the path to the 6th stage of young god. He is still in seclusion, a 3rd stage realm lord replied respectfully. Your Majesty, should we inform Sansheng about the situation with return to nothingness? The realm lord then asked. It was clear that this was not his own question but one prompted by others. The young man frowned. There is no need to inform Sansheng about this. I will handle return to nothingness. He only needs to focus on breaking through to the 6th stage of young god. This was his way of expressing his stance. He knew that because Sansheng had not chosen any of the paths offered by the 6th stage young god powerhouses on the origin mountain, there had been much gossip within their lineage. After all, in the eyes of others, if Sansheng had reached the 6th stage of young god, their lineage might not have suffered so terribly against return to nothingness, and they wouldn't have had to abandon so many territories. After speaking, the young man said no more. He merely glanced at Sansheng's place of seclusion and prepared to leave. Come here. At that moment, Sansheng's voice rang out. The young man's brow twitched, and he entered the seclusion chamber. Sansheng looked at the young man, his voice calm. I plan to go to the rebirth realm. Hearing this, the young man's expression changed slightly. However, he did not speak. The rebirth realm, as well as the yin realm, are crucial to my Tao, Sansheng explained. The young man took a deep breath. If it were anyone else, they would likely have tried to dissuade Sansheng. After all, the rebirth realm and the yin realm were not like the yang realm. They were further from the Tao. Breaking through to the 6th stage of young god there would be a distant dream. I will handle things here. You focus on your cultivation and breakthrough, the young man said. All right, Sansheng nodded. After making some simple arrangements, his figure vanished. From that moment on, Sansheng was no longer in the yang realm. In the rebirth realm, a new Sansheng appeared. The Tao of reincarnation must also be reforged in the rebirth realm. The Sansheng who arrived in the rebirth realm was a completely new Sansheng. He started from the very bottom, recultivating the Tao techniques Qi refining, foundation establishment, golden core, nascent soul, until he finally reached the 3rd stage of young god. After the 3rd stage of young god comes the 4th stage, where the true spirit is extinguished and solidified into rules. On the Mi Shui, Sansheng's eyes were filled with melancholy. As the 4th stage of young god, the result of that failure. Sansheng recalled that on the origin mountain, a 6th stage young god powerhouse had also invited him. That 6th stage young powerhouse was named Dun, Escape. This, Dun, referred to the concept of heaven's Tao has 50, but one escapes. Return to nothingness was the inevitable trend, the opposite of life. This, Dun, used escape to counter return to nothingness. However, his Dun was not perfect, much like how Jing's stillness was incomplete. So, influenced by Dun, all 4th stage young god powerhouses in the world lose their true spirits, existing only in the past and future. Only by solidifying into treasures can they exist in the present. This was Dun's method of countering return to nothingness, and it was also his Tao. All Taos ultimately aim for eternity. However, since return to nothingness exists in the world, resisting it has become the ultimate goal of the Tao. Return to nothingness is the return to zero, destruction, calamity, chaos, and oblivion. All negative, annihilating, and eradicating methods in the world can be called return to nothingness. Reincarnation means that even beings consumed by, return to nothingness, can emerge from my cycle of reincarnation. This was San Sheng's vision. But realizing it would be extremely difficult. Destruction is always easier than reconstruction. The Yin realm, the rebirth realm, and the Yang realm contain countless universes, spaces, and great realms. Even the cosmos beyond the three realms. The number of powerhouses born is incalculable. The Tao is also infinite. The methods of annihilation are beyond measure. Some methods are unfathomable, involving absolute banishment, techniques that do not harm the true spirit, or imprisonment. Anything that causes living beings distress or, conversely, seems favorable but carries malice, can be called return to nothingness. Return to nothingness is the opposite of eternity. Even malicious eternity can be considered a form of return to nothingness. The return to nothingness, currently appearing in the three realms, mostly manifests as destruction. Therefore, to achieve the Tao through reincarnation, I need to understand every Tao technique, every path, and reach the pinnacle of each. San Sheng murmured. This was why Jing had once said that San Sheng was delusional. Because the methods of destruction are too numerous, and return to nothingness encompasses everything. The Tao in the world is beyond counting. Even a single cell has its own unique Tao. A stone, a barren planet, also has its own Tao. He needed to understand them all, to be omniscient and omnipotent, to resist, return to nothingness, and truly allow beings to emerge from reincarnation. The fourth stage of Yang God must also be entered. Without entering the fourth stage of Yang God, how could he understand Dun's path? Although a sixth stage Yang God powerhouse could comprehend the essence of the fourth stage of Yang God, in San Sheng's view, that was merely knowing the what, not the why. I must enter the fourth stage of Yang God in the Yin realm. As San Sheng murmured this, his figure split into two. One entered the Yin realm, while the other remained in the rebirth realm. Many years later, in the Yin world, San Sheng, clad in black robes, exuded an obscure aura. Behind him followed a group of powerhouses. Judging by their auras alone, they were all at the fifth stage of Yang God. Yet, even these fifth stage Yang God powerhouses showed respect to San Sheng, who was only at the third stage of Yang God. This was because San Sheng's talent was too high. A few words from him could lead a powerhouse to sudden enlightenment. Moreover, although he was only at the third stage of Yang God, his combat power was astonishing. He had many methods to resist, return to nothingness. Thus, in the Yin realm, he had many followers. Your Majesty San Sheng, the path to the fourth stage of Yang God is not orthodox. With your talent, you could easily reach the fifth stage of Yang God, an elderly fifth stage Yang God powerhouse said. He had been stuck at the third stage of Yang God for countless years. It was only under San Sheng's guidance that he had broken through to the fifth stage of Yang God. The fifth stage of Yang God is not my goal, San Sheng said softly. In the Yin realm, he had established a vast organization spanning endless spaces, collecting all the methods of the world. But the Yin realm was too vast. Even a sixth stage Yang God powerhouse might not be able to traverse it entirely. This time, I will enter the fourth stage of Yang God. If one day, my true spirit revives, there will be no more return to nothingness in the world. The fifth stage Yang God powerhouses behind him all looked at San Sheng with complex expressions. After all, sacrificing his true spirit to enter the fourth stage of Yang God, just to seek a sliver of hope for the revival of true spirits and to counter, return to nothingness, was something they would never do. Even if the world fell into ruin, the myriad realms are so vast that they could simply go elsewhere and live eternally. If my true spirit cannot revive, San Sheng smiled, there will be others who come after me, surpassing me. As San Sheng's voice fell, his figure vanished into nothingness. His true spirit was extinguished. At that moment, San Sheng felt an overwhelming power, as if he could wound a sixth stage Yang God powerhouse with a single strike. But this extreme sublimation lasted only for an instant. His true spirit was completely extinguished. In the universe, only a group of powerhouses remained, staring at the void with complex expressions. At the same time, in the rebirth realm, San Sheng's thoughts were sluggish. Indeed, even with the method I created to split my true spirit and enter the fourth stage of Yang God, I am still affected. The current San Sheng had a dim true spirit. It was as if dust had settled on a light bulb. Sleep. To deal with these issues, San Sheng chose to sleep. After an unknown number of years, San Sheng awoke once more. Suddenly, he raised his hand, his eyes calm. Was I bitten? On his arm was a clear set of teeth marks. Clearly, while he was asleep, someone had tried to take a bite out of him. He paid it no mind. This time, upon awakening, his understanding of the myriad Taos had deepened. However, he opened the jade slip, which contained many messages. Sansheng, the void battle domain has been consumed by, return to nothingness. The Yang Heaven realm is gone. More and more beings are migrating to the ancestral domain. The ancestral domain is in constant turmoil. During the time he had been asleep, return to nothingness had become more rampant. In the Yin realm, the rebirth realm, and the Yang realm, return to nothingness was spreading. All things were turning to nothingness. A dream of 1,000 autumns. I never expected the effects of extinguishing my true spirit in the fourth stage of Yang God would last so many years. Sansheng sighed. In the current Yang realm, apart from the powerhouses of his lineage and some ancient beings, probably, no one remembered him. The newly ascended 5th stage Yang God powerhouses did not know him either. The more I know, the further I realize I am from reincarnation. Sansheng lamented. The reincarnation he sought was even more complex than the omniscience and omnipotence of the 6th stage of Yang God. It was as if one person was opposing the entire world. Reincarnation, reincarnation. This became Sansheng's obsession. In the time that followed, he slowly traversed the rebirth realm alone. He also encountered the being who had left teeth marks on his arm. He did not hold it against them. He was collecting the methods of the world, observing, return to nothingness. However, from time to time, news from the Yang realm reached him. The wind realm has been consumed by, return to nothingness. This time, an entire universe of beings failed to evacuate in time. All were consumed by, return to nothingness. Sansheng, you were nurtured by all races. On the path of origin, I too escorted you and was severely injured. It took me 10 trillion years to recover. Now that, return to nothingness, is upon us, why do you not return to protect your people? Are the paths of other 6th stage Yang God powerhouses not enough? More and more gossip reached him. Yet, Sansheng's determination to seek the Tao remained unchanged. Without achieving reincarnation, how can I resist, return to nothingness? However, many years later, a girl came to Sansheng in tears, her expression filled with sorrow. Your Majesty Sansheng, the Divine One, he fought against, returned to nothingness. His true spirit was extinguished. Only a wisp remains. The Divine One was the young man, Sansheng's junior brother. After so many years, return to nothingness had grown increasingly terrifying. Even 5th stage Yang God powerhouses could fall to it. True spirit extinguished, only a wisp remains. Sansheng murmured, his expression complex. Where is the wisp? The wisp does not wish to see you, the girl cried. The extinction of the true spirit meant complete death. The wisp was merely the last breath of a powerhouse. His junior brother's last breath did not want to see him. Sansheng sat beneath a large tree for 7 days, his expression desolate. I understand. The closer I get to reincarnation, the further I realize I am from it. Without entering reincarnation, there is only the cycle. At this moment, Sansheng no longer clung to the path of reincarnation. First the cycle, then reincarnation. Sansheng's voice was calm. But he understood. After entering the cycle, he might infinitely approach reincarnation, but he would never truly touch it. At this moment, Sansheng entered the 5th stage of Yang God. From then on, the 5th stage of Yang God became the Tao Lord, and the mortal world entered the cycle. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. In the myriad realms and countless spaces, many ancient beings opened their eyes, their faces filled with shock. I have fallen in rank. No, my combat power hasn't been affected at all. Wait, the 5th stage of Yang God is now the Tao Lord. I see the path ahead. No, it's not the 6th stage of Yang God. It's still the 5th stage. Omniscient and omnipotent, the cycle. At this moment, all 5th stage Yang God cultivators suddenly sensed the path ahead. It was a path of even greater power. Entering the cycle means eternal existence. Even, return to nothingness, can do nothing against it. To enter the cycle, one must master a Tao. At this moment, across the myriad realms, countless 5th stage Yang God cultivators discovered the path ahead. The path ahead was to become a Tao Lord, to enter the cycle. This was a path available to all 5th stage Yang God cultivators, aside from reaching the 6th stage of Yang God. However, this path was fraught with danger, requiring complete mastery of a Tao. In an instant, wars erupted across the Yang realm, the Yin realm, and even the Rebirth realm. The struggle for the Tao was fiercer than the hatred between a cheating husband and a murdered father. More and more powerhouses emerged, known as Tao Lords. Cycle-like worlds began to appear, forming great walls that spanned the Yang realm. More and more instances of return to nothingness were blocked by these great walls. For a time, return to nothingness seemed to diminish, its expansion slowing. However, at that moment, an unexpected change occurred. Disaster. Even we 5th stage Yang God cultivators, who have mastered a Tao, find it difficult to become Tao Lords. 3 calamities and 3 tribulations. It seemed that, return to nothingness, had noticed that the cycle was hindering its spread, and thus it unleashed the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations to block 5th stage Yang God cultivators from becoming Tao Lords. After all, it was too easy for 5th stage Yang God cultivators to become Tao Lords, hence the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations. Of course, for 3rd stage Yang God realm Lords, there were no 3 calamities and 3 tribulations to hinder them from becoming Tao Lords. After all, there were too many existing 5th stage Yang God cultivators. If everyone became a Tao Lord, the spread of return to nothingness would slow to a halt. Naturally, the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations were known by different names and manifested differently in the Yin realm, Yang realm, and Rebirth realm. At the same time, in the Rebirth realm, San Sheng's eyes flashed with confusion. The 3 calamities and 3 tribulations had descended, blocking the path to becoming a Tao Lord for all beings. And he, the cultivator who had proven the cycle, suffered the greatest blow. Return to nothingness had fallen upon him. Cycle. San Sheng used the cycle to resist, return to nothingness. The place where he had achieved the Tao was in the Rebirth realm, where time and space were trapped in a cycle. As long as he did not die, even if the world was destroyed, he could retrieve it from the cosmic river. But at this moment, return to nothingness seemed to awaken with consciousness, viewing him as a threat and instinctively seeking to destroy him. In an instant, the power of return to nothingness from countless spaces and myriad realms fell upon San Sheng. A crack appeared on San Sheng's face. His body shattered like a porcelain doll. Experiencing return to nothingness up close, a look of sudden realization crossed his face. So this is return to nothingness. There is life and death, stillness and movement. The Heavenly Emperor is return to nothingness. Stillness is return to nothingness. Number law is return to nothingness. Even I return to nothingness. All Tao techniques, divine abilities, ultimate truths, great Taos, and rules fall within the scope of return to nothingness. The stronger living beings become, the more powerful return to nothingness grows. All things revolve, and people move from life to death. The universe moves from creation to return to nothingness. Cycle. San Sheng roared, using the power of the cycle to resist return to nothingness. At this moment, he felt an overwhelming pressure. It was as if several 6th stage Yang God powerhouses were attacking him simultaneously. Or perhaps, all the Tao Lords, all the 5th stage Yang God cultivators, all living beings, and all inanimate objects in the world were attacking him at once. Having achieved the Tao at the 5th stage of Yang God, his strength was comparable to that of a 6th stage Yang God powerhouse. However, this was not reincarnation, not the Tao he sought. In just an instant, his arm was destroyed. The power of the cycle reformed it. Such collisions happened every moment. Even a single overflow of power could annihilate tens of thousands of realm lords. The collision between San Sheng and return to nothingness reached a stalemate. Destruction, rebirth, shattering, and renewal. Is this illusion? After an unknown number of years, San Sheng's consciousness grew hazy, and he became muddled. As for the erosion of return to nothingness, it also weakened. At this point, San Sheng's soul was dim, and his true spirit was shattered. He saw his body transforming into illusion. This is the curse of sinking. It curses me, curses the lineage I belong to. Everything will eventually return to nothingness. By using the cycle to resist return to nothingness, he had incurred the curse of sinking. This curse was not only destroying him but also destroying his world. This destruction was so severe that even the cycle of a Tao Lord could hardly recover. After all, this was the power of all destruction. Cough. San Sheng coughed up blood, his mouth filled with bloody foam. It had been countless years since he had suffered such injuries. He was muddled, his consciousness blurred, stumbling like an ordinary cultivator. This karmic force cannot be resisted without reincarnation. What is reincarnation? Where is my reincarnation? He fell into the mortal world. His figure was thin, like a wounded swordsman. Hey, beggar, here's a bun for you. Miss, stay away from this kind of person. What if he has enemies? Beggar, get out of here. This person must be an immortal. He hasn't frozen to death despite 3 years of heavy snow. Immortal, please take me as your disciple. I want revenge. In the mortal world, San Sheng, in his muddled state, met many people. Suddenly, he seemed to realize something, and a glimmer of clarity appeared in his eyes. Someone has become a Tao Lord. A Tao Lord of devouring. It feels familiar. That aura felt familiar. It was as if it belonged to the being that had once taken a bite out of him. Reincarnation. What is reincarnation? He did not try to sense that Tao Lord further but continued to search for his reincarnation. Time passed, and an unknown number of years went by. The curse of sinking affected him more and more. The place where he had achieved the Tao was now known as the Forbidden Land. Over the endless years, he saw the Heavenly Emperor descend into the rebirth realm, seemingly trying to find him. He also saw the last breath of the Divine One transform into a Heavenly Emperor, full of ambition. However, all of this was irrelevant to him. His true spirit and consciousness continued to dissolve. Only a wisp of obsession remained. Suddenly, he seemed to remember something. In reincarnation, there is Meng Po. Who is Meng Po? Forgetfulness. Is reincarnation missing forgetfulness? Yes, I need to forge a sword of forgetting. San Sheng's obsession was muddled. The sword of forgetting could erase the curse of sinking. It was also a part of reincarnation. This is my only chance to enter reincarnation. At this moment, San Sheng's body completely shattered, turning into illusion. Only a shadow remained, like a ghost wandering the world. He lingered in the rebirth realm, searching for the materials to forge that sword. Proud bones are the bones of the sword. Only bones filled with fearlessness and obsession are the best. He traversed mountains and rivers. Later, he saw a young boy burdened with hatred. He took away all the boy's emotions and gave him the greatest talent for swordsmanship in the world. Later still, he saw, within the cycle, the man thrusting his sword at the woman. Snow fell heavily, but the sky rained blood. The woman was covered in blood, her expression cold, like a lonely figure under a lamp. She held the sword tightly in her hand. The sword that the sword disciple had become. Later still, within the cycle, he saw the remnant spirit of the Tao Lord of devouring. She seemed to have died in the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations. The shadow that San Sheng had become went to the Cosmic Alliance and found Wu Shi, using her to replace the Tao Lord of devouring. Later still, the Moneybag's young god perished, and Wu Shi held a blood-red sword, her expression suppressed yet fierce. Looking at the lonely figure of the young girl, San Sheng's eyes were filled with confusion. Has this sword succeeded? No, it hasn't succeeded yet. What is it missing? For Wu Shi, the sword was already powerful enough, strong enough to resist the curse of sinking. But for San Sheng, the sword was still too weak. It could not serve as the pillar of reincarnation. What is it missing? San Sheng was puzzled. He did not retrieve the sword. On the other side, Wu Shi, holding the blood-red sword, repelled the 9 heavens' divine palace, avenging her master. The young god who had once injured her master was also slain by her. The expanding curse of sinking was also quelled by the sword in her hand. Master. Wu Shi's eyes were red. She stood on Mingri Shui, where snow fell heavily, but the familiar figures of the past were nowhere to be seen. The Zhou Mountain Great Realm, and the Forbidden Land, because of the curse of sinking, delving deep into them causes time and space to go mad. Past and future exist in a single thought. She thought of the sword disciple. She thought of the sword disciple who had thrust his sword at her on Cloud Dream Mountain. Master, I will surely see you again. She no longer actively roamed the rebirth realm but ventured deep into the Forbidden Land. The Zhou Mountain Great Realm had long been pulled into the Forbidden Land, becoming a part of it. She delved deep into the Forbidden Land, standing at the edge of time and space in the Zhou Mountain Great Realm. She waited, for in the madness of time and space, perhaps in some crack of time, she could see the sword disciple again. Unfortunately, even though she traversed the cycle through the Forbidden Land, she did not see that familiar figure on that timeline. At the same time, in the cracks of time, San Sheng's eyes were calm as he murmured, quite the actor. If others were to observe Wu Shi, they would think she was a lovesick fool, always wanting to see the sword disciple again and change the reality of him becoming a sword. But in reality, that was part of it. But Wu Shi, at every moment, was subtly investigating San Sheng's identity, strength, and methods of increasing her power. It was clear that Wu Shi wanted revenge. After all, San Sheng had toyed with her and her master. San Sheng, cloaked in a black robe, his muddled eyes showing a rare glimmer of clarity, muttered, "Could it be that this sword is missing me?" Later, in the Forbidden Land, Wu Shi had a fortuitous encounter. She found a strange treasure. This treasure had drifted in from the Yin realm, seemingly transformed from a fourth-stage Yang god. Without drawing attention, she integrated this treasure into the sword of forgetting that her master had become. The snow fell heavily, and she held the sword in her hand, her expression cold. "Can I kill him?" She was not confident. The shadow that had toyed with her and her master was too mysterious and unfathomable, far more terrifying than an ordinary Tao Lord. The only consolation was that his condition did not seem to be good. She lay in wait for an unknown amount of time. Finally, on a day of heavy snow, she chose to draw her sword. She would avenge her master. She would avenge the sword disciple. Those who play with fate will eventually be played by fate. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. In a secluded corner, a shadowy figure coughed incessantly. The bubbles from his cough seemed to contain traces of blood. Reincarnation, what is it still missing? San Sheng was puzzled. With his talent, even the Heavenly Emperor paled in comparison. The closer he got to reincarnation, the further he felt from it. Even if the Sword of Forgetting was successfully forged, it would still be far from achieving true reincarnation. San Sheng, the reincarnation you seek is different from what we envision. It is a dead end. Why not switch to stillness? The jade slip, which had been silent for many years, finally transmitted a faint message. Stillness was dead. The Tao of stillness remained, but it was incomplete. Thus, stillness hoped that San Sheng could walk its path and achieve true stillness. All things would be still, but he would not. San Sheng frowned and waved his hand. "You're already dead, yet you still echo so much." The jade slip immediately fell silent. What San Sheng sought was reincarnation. As for stillness, it could freeze all things in a state of his choosing, but that was not what San Sheng desired. "What am I missing to achieve reincarnation?" San Sheng murmured, and at that moment, he began coughing violently again, spitting out a large amount of bloody foam. The power of return to nothingness was still corroding him, and now he was extremely weak. Suddenly, San Sheng raised his head, and the black robe covering him trembled. "You've come." Not far ahead stood a young woman holding a blood-red sword. Her expression was cold, her eyes serious. Even though the shadowy figure before her was extremely weak, she treated him with utmost caution. After all, a single misstep could plunge her into an abyss. Moreover, the other party was incredibly mysterious. He had orchestrated the fate of her and her master. As San Sheng's voice fell, the battle began silently. This was a battle between Tao Lords. And not just ordinary Tao Lords. Although San Sheng was weakened by the karmic force of return to nothingness, he could still easily slay ordinary Tao Lords. Wu Shi, on the other hand, wielded the Sword of Forgetting, an enhanced version at that. The collision between the two was enough to overturn the universe. However, their exchange was swift and brief, not even shattering the mountain they stood on. It was purely a contest of Tao principles and great Taos. Devouring, forgetting, the cycle, and more. Who are you, and why do you also possess the power of devouring? Wu Shi had gained the upper hand. But she was not pleased. The depth of the other party's power was too astonishing. If he weren't so weakened, she would stand no chance. "My name is Reincarnation." San Sheng's body grew increasingly illusory and ethereal. Even without Wu Shi's assassination attempt, he would eventually fade into nothingness, completely consumed by return to nothingness. This was the curse of return to nothingness. The blood-red sword slashed, as if it could devour everything in the world, even return to nothingness. The sword finally pierced through San Sheng's hand, breaking the skin on the back of it. His blood, at that moment, merged with the Sword of Forgetting. A hoarse voice rang out. What is missing between the cycle and reincarnation? Death. Even at this moment, he clung to his obsession, trying to see the path ahead. But even in death, he could not see reincarnation. What was he missing to achieve reincarnation? Who are you? Wu Shi's blood-red sword trembled, and the hood covering the shadowy figure's face was lifted. A pale, weak, yet eerily familiar face came into Wu Shi's view. Wu Shi's pupils contracted sharply, and her face showed disbelief. Master, a San Sheng Aka end. What you're missing is the netherworld. On the mountain of 10,000 gods, Qi Yuan opened his eyes. Countless memories flooded into his mind. For a moment, his eyes showed confusion, melancholy, and then the sword disciple, the moneybags young god, and San Sheng. These three lives were part of his journey in creating the three pure methods, a part of his past. I never thought I'd encounter little Wu Shi within the three pure methods. Recalling his experiences with Wu Shi, Qi Yuan found it quite amusing. But upon reflection, it made sense. After all, Wu Shi was his nascent soul. It was natural for them to have a connection. However, later, Wu Shi was captured by San Sheng and devoured the Tao fruit of the devouring Tao Lord. Memories of the past surfaced bit by bit. Qi Yuan's eyes were calm. So, above the fifth stage of Yang God is the sixth stage. The cycle is just the beginning of reincarnation. At this moment, Qi Yuan waved his hand, and a jade slip fell into his palm. This jade slip was the game Jade Slip. So this jade slip has a name, Jing Jing. No, there's also a part of San Sheng in it. It's a bit brainy now. The game Jade Slip, also known as Stillness, had been taken by San Sheng. Later, San Sheng was killed by Wu Shi. A part of San Sheng merged into the Sword of Forgetting, while another part entered the game Jade Slip, combining with Stillness to form the game Jade Slip. So, this game Jade Slip is a part of me. Ah, my head feels a bit dizzy. Am I San Sheng's future? Or is San Sheng a part of me? Qi Yuan muttered. Although he was very intelligent, he didn't like to overthink. Thinking was reserved for crafting grand plans. None of this matters. After a moment, Qi Yuan understood something. For stillness, time did not exist. Past, present, and future were all frozen at a single point. For San Sheng, who sought to master reincarnation, causality did not exist. He created history, edited history, or rather, Qi Yuan was an observer. If he did not observe a certain period of history, then, that history might not truly exist. Just as an ant does not know Qi Yuan. To the ant, Qi Yuan is an illusion, not truly existing. And that period of history, to Qi Yuan, is like Qi Yuan to the ant. The reason San Sheng failed in reincarnation is that, he lacked the netherworld. Without the netherworld, how can there be reincarnation? This is common knowledge for people on Blue Star. The netherworld is an indispensable part of reincarnation. San Sheng suffered from a lack of education. Although San Sheng was created by Qi Yuan's three pure methods, possessing immense talent, intelligence, and good looks. Qi Yuan, as the original, believed he was no less than San Sheng. After all, he had a bachelor's degree, while San Sheng did not. He also had property deeds, marriage certificates, and even a mental health certificatia, things San Sheng lacked. Indeed, San Sheng never underwent the 9 years of compulsory education, which is why he failed in reincarnation. I'm different. I already have the netherworld. Achieving reincarnation will be a breeze. I have the netherworld, the 10 Yama kings, and all that. The only thing missing is the river of forgetfulness. Wait, where did my river go? The Star River? The Milky Way? No, the Cosmic River. The Cosmic River, capable of reviving beings from the universe, resembled the river of forgetfulness that Qi Yuan had lost. Now, I have overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations. Qi Yuan felt his strength. He was still far from the peak of San Sheng's power. But he had already overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations, making him exceptionally powerful. With the Sword of Forgetting, he was invincible below the 6th stage of Yang God. Even against a 6th stage Yang God, with the Sword of Forgetting, he dared to confront them. Moreover, once he achieved reincarnation, his power would instantly surpass the peak of San Sheng's strength. Feng Yi, how long have I been in seclusion? At this moment, Qi Yuan asked. Of course, he could sense the information particles to find out. But he was lazy. Your Highness, you've emerged from seclusion. Your Highness, you've been in seclusion for 3,000 years. Feng Yi replied respectfully. 3,000 years? That long? Tisk, my strength has only improved this much. Qi Yuan was somewhat disappointed. As the saying goes, time is money. He had lost a fortune. During these 3,000 years, has anything significant happened? Qi Yuan asked. Your Highness, Heitian Divine Lord once sought you out, but you were in seclusion, Feng Yi answered carefully, slowing his speech. Heitian Divine Lord said that the debt he owed you is now settled. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Qi Yuan was slightly surprised, but his gaze quickly cleared. Is that so? After overcoming the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations, he was nearly omniscient and omnipotent. With just a slight perception, he understood the cause and effect of the matter. Of course, this ability was limited to ordinary cosmic regions. In places like the Forbidden Land, where return to nothingness reigned, this ability was greatly restricted. Thus, for Qi Yuan, finding Wuxi in the Forbidden Land was still somewhat difficult. It seems this game mission still has some level of difficulty, Qi Yuan thought to himself. The mission's content was simple: protect the Forbidden Land and prevent it from being consumed by return to nothingness. This was something even the peak San Sheng would have struggled to achieve. For the current Qi Yuan, it was challenging. However, compared to San Sheng, Qi Yuan had a bachelor's degree, a brilliant mind, and was particularly skilled at making plans. The advantage was his. Completing the game mission was not an insurmountable problem. At this moment, Qi Yuan looked at Feng Yi and said calmly, I'm planning to host a banquet, a small gathering. Go and invite He Tian. Qi Yuan was a man of rules. Moreover, he was clever and wise, never killing innocents indiscriminately. Thus, inviting He Tian was necessary. On the other side, Feng Yi entered the area where He Tian resided. When He Tian heard Feng Yi's message, his eyes showed surprise. What? Brother Qi Yuan is inviting me to meet. For many years, he had not seen Qi Yuan. His friend, the devouring star divine lord, had also whispered in his ear that Qi Yuan might have caught wind of something and was afraid to meet him. He Tian naturally believed his judgment of character was sound, but he couldn't help being influenced by the devouring star divine lord's constant reminders. Moreover, Qi Yuan had been in seclusion all this time. A sliver of doubt had crept into his heart. However, none of that mattered now. He had already distanced himself from Qi Yuan to avoid implicating him. Now, Qi Yuan had emerged from seclusion and invited him. He felt a pang of guilt. Perhaps he shouldn't have entertained such thoughts. He Tian hesitated. He didn't want to drag Qi Yuan into his troubles again. His Highness said you must attend this gathering. Feng Yi emphasized. He Tian hesitated for a moment, then finally shook his head. I'll go. With a heavy heart, He Tian arrived at Qi Yuan's cave abode. He felt a mix of melancholy and gratitude. However, he understood that after this gathering, he would have to sever ties with Qi Yuan and explain the stakes clearly. Otherwise, even if Qi Yuan was the son of Pillar Tian Kai, offending that person would likely cost him his life. After all, Pillar Tian Kai had many offspring. He wouldn't particularly favor one over the others. Brother He Tian, long time no see. Have you eaten? At that moment, Qi Yuan walked out, draped in a robe adorned with characters, looking noble and dignified. He opened with a question about whether He Tian had eaten. He Tian was momentarily stunned. You invited me to a gathering and now you're asking if I've eaten. If I say I have, are you going to kick me out? Not yet, He Tian forced a smile. Since the devouring star divine lord had left to seek a breakthrough, his residence had been deserted for a long time, with almost no visitors. The true gods he had once befriended and helped now avoided him like the plague. Perfect, I've had the kitchen prepare a feast. You'll definitely enjoy it and eat to your heart's content, Qi Yuan said casually. He Tian smiled, though his smile was strained. The ever-observant Qi Yuan noticed this and quickly added, don't worry, the food is absolutely lavish. It's not pre-made dishes or some cheap takeout. You helped me a lot back then, so inviting you to a meal has to be something respectable, like braised chicken or pork trotter rice. Although He Tian didn't fully understand Qi Yuan's words, he laughed heartily. It's been 3,000 years, yet brother Qi Yuan remains as spirited as ever. He felt a sense of nostalgia. Now, on the mountain of 10,000 gods, the only one who treated him this way was Qi Yuan. Along with the devouring star divine lord, who was still outside. Qi Yuan nodded and got straight to the point. In ancient times, people often hosted banquets to mediate disputes. Today, I've invited you here to play the role of a mediator, to resolve your issues and, in the process, repay the favor I owe you. This was his goal. He Tian was momentarily stunned. A mediator. He somewhat understood Qi Yuan's meaning. But, being a mediator was not something just anyone could do. After all, he was the trigger for that person who had overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations. To interfere would be to block their path, incurring a grudge. Even Pillar Tian Kai couldn't mediate this. On the mountain of 10,000 gods, the only one qualified to mediate was likely the divine emperor. Brother Qi Yuan, that person has an extraordinary background. You must not offend them, He Tian quickly warned. He feared Qi Yuan didn't understand the gravity of the situation. That person hailed from the Yang realm. How could I? I live by the principle of not offending others unless provoked. I'm lawful good, never causing trouble recklessly. Right, He Tian. Qi Yuan called out to the screen behind him. He Tian was puzzled. From behind the screen, a Tao god clad in black robes slowly emerged. This Tao god's eyes still carried a look of lingering fear, as if he had been deeply shaken. When He Tian saw this person, he was utterly confused. Wasn't this the Tao god? Why was he here, and in such a state? Moreover, what did Qi Yuan just call him? He Tian. His mind was in turmoil, unsure of what was happening. At this moment, Qi Yuan spoke. He Tian, you should recognize this person. He's the He Tian divine lord you wanted to use to bypass the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations. Hearing this, He Tian confirmed that this was indeed that person. The He Tian, Tao god quickly nodded. Yes, senior. Little did he know, while he was in seclusion preparing to face the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations, a vast and boundless force had suddenly abducted him. As a Tao god, he had no ability to resist. At first, he thought it was the divine emperor who had acted. But later, he realized how wrong he was. This mysterious powerhouse was even more terrifying than the divine emperor, who had overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations. To be abducted from the mountain of 10,000 gods, the divine emperor's territory, without the divine emperor even noticing that this was undoubtedly a peerless powerhouse. Perhaps even stronger than the divine emperor. Such a terrifying powerhouse had targeted him. His life and death were entirely in Qi Yuan's hands. You both understand the purpose of this gathering, right? Qi Yuan glanced at the two, his voice calm. He Tian and He Tian both felt a chill, though their emotions were completely different. Sigh, the Yin realm, Yang realm, and Rebirth realm, you two are practically counterparts. If we stretch it, you could even be considered brothers. I can't stand to see brothers turn against each other. He Tian, how about this? If I can write a poem within 7 steps that moves you to tears, you'll leave He Tian alone. What do you think? Qi Yuan looked at He Tian, his voice steady. He was preparing to plagiarize again. He Tian could only nod. If he refused, he would likely be the one used to help He Tian bypass the calamities. Now, whatever Qi Yuan said, he had to listen and comply. Beside him, He Tian's face was filled with shock that refused to fade. He even wondered if he was on the verge of death, hallucinating. But he was a divine lord. How could that be? All right, I'll start walking. Step 1. Qi Yuan began moving, reciting the plagiarized poem with great emotion. He even used a broadcasting tone, mixed with a bit of electronic and bubble sounds. Boiling beans to make soup, filtering the beans. ... Born from the same root, why rush to harm each other? As Qi Yuan took his steps, he finished reciting the poem. Qi Yuan was about to speak and gauge He Tian's reaction when he realized his 7 steps had taken him straight into the forbidden land. He hurried back. Oops, I didn't realize my steps were so big. But you heard the poem, right? Qi Yuan returned to the banquet, feeling relieved. Thankfully, he was a cultivator. Otherwise, such large steps would have been disastrous, possibly tearing his pants and embarrassing him. I heard it, He Tian replied, feeling utterly bewildered, as if 10,000 monsters were running amok in his head. Qi Yuan's actions were beyond his comprehension. How was the poem? Did it move you to tears? Qi Yuan asked. The poem was well written. With his heartfelt recitation, it could easily win a top 3 prize in an elementary school recitation contest. Moving He Tian should have been a breeze. I was deeply moved. He Tian dared not move. Faced with the choice between breakthrough and death, he chose to play along. I'm sorry, he directly apologized to Qi Yuan, even squeezing out tears of emotion. If He Tian weren't present, he might have even kowtowed to Qi Yuan. As for the dignity and face of a Tao god, what were those? He wasn't some ascetic cultivator. His unique physique and extraordinary background had allowed him to reach Tao God with little effort, relying on divine treasures. Don't. I hate it when people apologize to me. At this moment, Qi Yuan shuddered with disgust. If some random man or woman apologized to him, it would be utterly terrifying. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. In that case, Tao God He Tian, will you still trouble the He Tian Divine Lord? Qi Yuan looked at He Tan and asked calmly. His voice was steady, devoid of any emotional undertones, yet it made He Tan's heart skip a beat. At their level of cultivation, the desire for survival and eternity was no less than the pursuit of the Tao. After hearing Senior's poem, I am deeply remorseful. I never imagined I would almost make such a grave mistake, He Tan replied, his expression as if he and He Tian were truly brothers. Of course, in reality, he and He Tian had no blood or familial ties. Their relationship was akin to that of an amoeba and a monkey. Good. If everyone in the Yang realm were as sensible as you, the world would be a much better place, Qi Yuan said. Not just the Yang realm, if the beings of the Yin realm and the rebirth realm could also understand human speech and be moved by Qi Yuan's words, wouldn't the world be filled with love? The atmosphere of the cultivation world would surely be purified. Since He Tan understood human speech, the banquet proceeded harmoniously, with no awkward incidents. He Tan sat to the side and asked in a low voice, "May I ask, Senior, what is your name, and which lineage do you belong to?" A powerhouse of Qi Yuan's level couldn't possibly be unknown. There must be traces of his existence in the world. He Tan was deeply curious about Qi Yuan's identity and was trying to figure out who he was. After asking, perhaps feeling his question was too abrupt, He Tan introduced himself. "I am from the Tian Guang lineage. Our lineage master is Fu Guang, who once visited the Origin Mountain." When mentioning the lineage master, He Tan's eyes were filled with reverence and pride. The Tian Guang lineage master was even stronger than the Divine Emperor. As He Tan spoke, he observed Qi Yuan's expression and reaction. Fu Guang. Qi Yuan was momentarily stunned. Memories from San Sheng's past surfaced. Fu Guang, he had met him once. When San Sheng went to the Origin Mountain, Fu Guang had once acted as a protector for other 5th-stage Yang God cultivators. Later, when San Sheng pursued the path of the cycle, Fu Guang achieved the Tao Lord realm. What happened after that, San Sheng did not know. "Senior knows lineage master Fu Guang?" He Tan asked. "One of my avatars met him at the Origin Mountain," Qi Yuan answered truthfully, without any concealment. An avatar, the Origin Mountain, He Tan gasped in shock. These two terms alone were enough to astonish him. He grew even more curious about Qi Yuan's identity. It seemed he was undoubtedly an ancient, eternal existence. Of course, even if he weren't, the power Qi Yuan had displayed was enough to prove his strength without needing any titles. A king only needs to sit on his throne, while the weak are the ones who need to prove their noble status. Life is rather dull. After parting ways with He Tian, Qi Yuan wandered alone through the rebirth realm. The experience of walking through the world now was vastly different from when he had done so as San Sheng. Back then, San Sheng's goal was to understand all the methods of the world, seek ways to break them, and then forge his own path of reincarnation. San Sheng's obsession was reincarnation. Everything he did was to pave the way for reincarnation. Unfortunately, San Sheng had talent but lacked Qi Yuan's brilliant mind. When Qi Yuan was on Gongxing, he had posted online, gathering the wisdom of many netizens to create an alternative purple mansion. That is, the so-called netherworld. Without the netherworld, how could there be reincarnation? This was a truth every Blue Star native understood. Sadly, San Sheng was not from Blue Star and did not grasp this concept. Of course, the most important thing was that during San Sheng's nascent soul stage, he wasn't as bold as Qi Yuan, who directly created the netherworld. Thus, Qi Yuan was only one step away from the reincarnation San Sheng had sought. "Once I complete this game mission and protect the Forbidden Land, then I can step into the Yang God realm, or perhaps, master reincarnation." But what is a Yang God? Qi Yuan fell into contemplation once more. The path of reincarnation was clear to him. It was the pursuit of great freedom and liberation. Even if all things turned to return to nothingness, even if all existence in the world became return to nothingness, he could still grasp reincarnation within, return to nothingness, and find his true self. "It's time to visit Duke Null and see if this clever steward has any good ideas for me." With a flash, Qi Yuan headed toward the Forbidden Land. Meanwhile, in the Forbidden Land, Zhao Jian's face was filled with worry. "Our luck is terrible. The sweep by Heavenly King Mountain is about to reach here. Duke Null, are you really not leaving?" To search for the 3 pure methods, Zhao Jian had hidden in this world. But 3,000 years ago, Qi Yuan had disappeared. Now, mysterious forces like Heavenly King Mountain had begun sweeping through the Forbidden Land, with multiple Tao gods taking action. Even Tao gods who had overcome 1 or 2 calamities were involved. The notorious figures of the Forbidden Land were being hunted down, their wings clipped. Naturally, a ruthless figure like Qi Yuan was also on their list. Fortunately, there were too many dangerous individuals in the Forbidden Land, and Qi Yuan hadn't attracted too much attention from the Tao gods. The sweep hadn't yet reached Duke Null's world. But it was close. Why should I leave? This is my home. I am the Grand Steward, appointed by the Vampire Emperor himself, Duke Null said matter-of-factly, tilting her head. But the Vampire Emperor hasn't been seen for a long time. Who knows if... Zhao Jian wanted to say that even if the Vampire Emperor showed up, it wouldn't matter. Not even the Vampire Ancestor could help. The sweep by Heavenly King Mountain and other mysterious forces was something even the Tao Lords of the Cosmic Alliance wouldn't dare interfere with lightly. There seemed to be great karma involved, enough to make Tao gods who had overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations take it seriously. Perhaps even the legendary 6th stage Yang God powerhouses were keeping an eye on it. How could Qi Yuan, a mere divine lord, meddle in such terrifying affairs? I believe in the Emperor, Duke Null said, patting her still youthful chest. Sigh, if we don't run now, it'll be too late, Zhao Jian said. Actually, it might already be too late. Zhao Jian had wanted to flee long ago. But after some thought, he decided against it. Tao gods were too mysterious and powerful. Whether he ran or not, the probability of encountering one was the same. Of course, another reason was that Qi Yuan had placed a restriction on him, preventing him from leaving. This is my territory. Why should I run? At that moment, a familiar voice rang out. Zhao Jian turned to see the newcomer, his eyes flickering with complex emotions. The reason he had stayed here for so long was ultimately for the so-called 3 pure methods. If Qi Yuan could truly produce the 3 pure methods, even the Tao Lords of the Cosmic Alliance might attempt to breach the Forbidden Land and rescue Qi Yuan from the hands of the Tao gods. At this moment, Qi Yuan's face showed a hint of regret. Ah, I didn't expect long legs to have their own troubles. I walked too fast. It only took me half a second to cover the distance light takes a year to travel. If light walked faster, could it cover a light year in half a year? I came too early. If I had arrived later, I might have seen the Tao gods take action and suppress this world. This world is on the brink of collapse. If I had descended as a savior at the last moment, it would have been the most thrilling. Life would have had a bit more excitement. Qi Yuan spoke lazily. Beside him, Duke Null's eyes lit up. The Vampire Emperor hadn't been seen for a long time, and his words were becoming increasingly profound. As for Zhao Jian, he was utterly confused. Originally, he had planned to persuade Qi Yuan to see if he could produce the 3 pure methods, lift his restriction, and enlist the help of the Cosmic Alliance's Tao Lords. Now, it seemed Qi Yuan was genuinely unwell, not just pretending. He actually wanted to take on those Tao gods. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Zhao Jian could only remain silent upon hearing this. He knew that when dealing with a cultivator like Qi Yuan, who had mental issues, no amount of persuasion or reasoning would help. In fact, if he angered Qi Yuan, the Tao gods from Heavenly King Mountain and other forces might not even get the chance to kill him. Qi Yuan would do it first. He shrugged, not daring to say anything more. Beside him, Duke Null remained as carefree as ever, still appearing like a young girl. 3,000 years had left no trace on her. She wore a JK skirt, her legs fair and delicate, her hair a wine-red color, exuding youthful energy. She looked at Qi Yuan, her eyes filled with both joy and worry. Master, over these 3,000 years, I have held over 7,600 Yang God conferences, with a total of 3.7 billion participants. However, regarding the path to the Yang God that you seek, progress has been minimal. As she spoke, Duke Null was filled with self-reproach. The Vampire Emperor hadn't been interested in her body but in her brain, and she had been thrilled and proud at the time. She felt her intellect had finally found its purpose. Over the years, she had diligently organized Yang God conferences, gathering wisdom from all corners to find the path to the Yang God. Unfortunately, there had been almost no progress. She couldn't help but think that it would have been better if the Vampire Emperor had been interested in her body instead. That way, she wouldn't have had to use her brain. She could have just laid back and made money. Oh, any progress? Qi Yuan asked. Regarding the path to the Yang God, even he was somewhat unclear. The so-called Yin God was nearly omniscient and omnipotent, capable of creating life and making anyone pregnant with a single glance. But what about the Yang God? Refining all the yin impurities within the spirit, achieving pure yang without yin, is the yang god. The fusion of spirit and energy, reaching the pinnacle of ascension, ethereal and formless, capable of infinite transformations, is the yang god. The yang god, the god of the sun. The yang god is said to transcend the 3 realms and 6 paths, never to reincarnate. Duke Null recounted all the answers she had compiled over the years. Her explanations could be broadly categorized into a few types. One type focused on pure yang, pursuing the ultimate yang, refining all yin and negativity in the world. Another type involved transforming into a single yang, transcending the mortal world, the immortal realm, the material realm, and the true spirit realm, existing only as a concept. These are all quite good, Qi Yuan nodded. As a leader, he always maintained a high emotional intelligence, not wanting to dampen his subordinates' enthusiasm. These ideas were also enlightening and inspiring to him. For example, refining all yin impurities to achieve the sole yang god. What was yang? The sun, masculinity, righteousness. Duke Null, hearing this, straightened her posture, somewhat surprised that the vampire emperor hadn't reprimanded her. Could it be that her brain was actually useful after all? Beside her, Zhao Jian remained silent, feeling somewhat speechless. What was the yang god if not the true god? What was there to explore? After all, in his eyes, Qi Yuan was already a divine lord. Space continued to shatter. A massive hand reached out, tearing through endless nothingness. A divine lord, like a fish caught in a net, struggled and fell into the abyss. However, this divine lord was unwilling to accept such a fate. Countless beings emerged from his divine kingdom, surging forth in an endless stream, seemingly trying to break the net. The laws of the great Tao, the rules of the universe, and the principles of the divine kingdom erupted with terrifying power. Unfortunately, with just a flash of light from the net, as if electricity had coursed through water, all the resisting beings were effortlessly annihilated, completely vanishing. Even a powerful divine lord, capable of creating life and opening worlds, was like rain on this net, his body shattered. Wanted list number 17, and Kai, has been eliminated. A majestic and mysterious voice echoed. Tao God Tufeng descended, his aura so overwhelming that no one dared to look directly at him. Tufeng, your technique of using heaven and earth as a net has become even more refined. This Kai was no ordinary foe. He was a divine treasure given life. If not for his flawed Tao fruit, he might have been one of us, the mountain lord of Heavenly King Mountain praised. Heavenly King Mountain was not particularly powerful, with only 3 Tao gods. This time, all 3 mountain lords had joined forces to sweep through the Forbidden Land. The one who had just been killed was named Kai. He was a formidable figure, with a record of escaping from Tao gods. The mountain lord of Heavenly King Mountain had thought Tufeng would need to exert some effort to capture him. He hadn't expected it to be so easy. He had some strength, but nothing extraordinary, Tufeng said matter-of-factly. The gap between a Tao god and a divine lord was immense. He had roamed the Forbidden Land for so many years without being dealt with because Tao gods feared Bai Tang, the white sugar Tao god. Now that Bai Tang is injured and unable to protect himself, and Qi's time was up, Tufeng continued. Among divine treasures given life, Bai Tang was the strongest. This Tao god was also particularly protective of his kind. Anyone who wanted to harm his kin would have to answer to him. This Bai Tang is also foolish, daring to offend even the heavenly god, the mountain lord of Heavenly King Mountain said, his eyes filled with awe. There are always those who have lived too long and no longer fear death. In the past, there was also a reckless Tao god who tried to attack the 9 heavens divine palace, and the result. Tufeng's gaze was cold. Outside the Forbidden Land, there were many powerful forces dedicated to cleaning up true gods who had mistakenly entered the Forbidden Land. These forces were backed by the Heavenly God and the Heavenly Emperor. The Heavenly God's stance was to kill. The Heavenly Emperor's stance was to persuade them to leave. Heavenly King Mountain, in a sense, was a force under the Heavenly God, carrying out his will. Alright, this area is cleared. Let's move forward. I hear there's another reckless divine lord ahead, Tao God Tufeng said. Be careful, travel through the dark void and conceal your presence. I've heard there's a reincarnated Tao Lord in the Forbidden Land who is extremely hostile to the 9 heavens divine palace, the mountain lord of Heavenly King Mountain warned. Tao God Tufeng nodded seriously, clearly aware of that figure's reputation. I wonder when the Heavenly God will take action and eliminate that person. The Forbidden Land is chaotic, with time flowing backward. Finding someone is incredibly difficult, the mountain lord of Heavenly King Mountain said. But at that moment, his expression suddenly changed, as if he had realized something. Run. Beside him, Tao God Tufeng didn't hesitate and immediately plunged into the dark void. The mountain lord of Heavenly King Mountain was even more panicked, diving into the dark void as well. Because at that moment, he sensed an eerie presence. In this place, who else could make even Tao gods feel uneasy? Only that Tao Lord. That Tao Lord had slain many Tao gods of the Nine Heavens' divine palace. The two didn't even dare to face that person, quickly diving into the dark void. Yet even so, a blinding light shattered their bodies. Their physical forms were destroyed, and only their true spirits escaped into the dark void, fleeing desperately. Is this the power of a Tao Lord? She's no ordinary Tao Lord. A Tao Lord who has entered the cycle is incredibly difficult to kill, even for those of us who have overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations. Their true spirits fled madly. At this moment, only a graceful woman remained, holding an intangible sword. She watched the fleeing Tao gods with cold, empty eyes. She stood for a long time, her hair swaying in the wind, before her figure vanished as if she had never been there. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. In the dark void, Tao God Tufeng and the mountain lord of Heavenly King Mountain fled in panic. Neither of them had overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations, making them relatively weak among Tao gods. Encountering a Tao Lord, especially one who was hostile, meant certain death if they were caught. At this moment, the two were using every means possible to escape. Fortunately, the dark void was intricate and complex, making it difficult even for a Tao Lord to pursue them. She's too powerful. This Tao Lord is no ordinary Tao Lord. Tao God Tufeng said, his voice trembling with fear. His physical body had been completely shattered, and he was now reforming it within the dark void. His remaining true spirit was still dim. She's been making more frequent moves lately, the mountain lord of Heavenly King Mountain said. The Tao Lord hiding in the Forbidden Land had a particular vendetta against the Nine Heavens' divine palace and the heavenly god behind it. However, the Forbidden Land was too chaotic, and even someone as powerful as the heavenly god would find it difficult to locate the Tao Lord. The more she exposes herself, the more danger she's in. The heavenly god has never made a move against her, likely waiting for the perfect moment to strike with absolute certainty, the mountain lord speculated. In truth, this speculation was something anyone familiar with the situation would know. What should we do about the remaining sweep of the Forbidden Land? Tao God Tufeng asked. He was considering retreating. Otherwise, encountering that Tao Lord again would mean certain death. Don't worry, she definitely won't make another move. We're safe, the mountain lord said confidently. There are just a few small pests left. Let's be cautious, finish the sweep, and then leave. Clearing the Forbidden Land was a task assigned to them by the heavenly god, and it had to be completed. Otherwise, the more beings consumed by the Forbidden Land, the greater the catastrophe that would follow. Tao God Tufeng nodded, agreeing with the mountain lord's decision. He said, after this, I plan to cultivate the Tao of the Dark Void. This experience had made him realize that even Tao gods were fragile. Facing a Tao Lord or a Tao God who had overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations, there was almost no chance of survival. Survival skills were paramount. For Tao gods, escaping into the dark void was the safest option. What's the use? There was once a Tao God named the Moneybags Tao God, who was most skilled in the Tao of the dark void. His escape skills were unmatched. But in the end, after offending the Nine Heavens' divine palace, he still died under mysterious circumstances. The mountain lord couldn't help but say. Tao God Tufeng sighed upon hearing this. Indeed, no matter how many escape methods one had, it was useless. Offending a truly top-tier powerhouse meant there were countless ways to be erased. They could even travel back to your past and eliminate you when you were still weak. To counter such methods, one would need to overcome at least 1 calamity and 1 tribulation, or become a Tao Lord. Let's go, the mountain lord waved his sleeve, and the two left the dark void. Although they were still injured and their strength had diminished significantly, dealing with the notorious figures in the Forbidden Land who weren't even Tao gods was no harder than swatting flies. The world ahead has a peculiar aura. There might be some prisoners there, Tao God Tufeng said. The mountain lord nodded. Without hesitation, Tao God Tufeng pressed his massive hand downward. In an instant, the rules of heaven and earth seemed to twist like threads. The vast world was like a puppet entangled by strings. Why would they need a second move to deal with those people? However, at that moment, an unexpected voice rang out. You're walking too slowly, looks like your legs are too short. Do you want me to perform a height-increasing surgery for you? Otherwise, if you go to Blue Star for a blind date, you'll be discriminated against. A figure in a red robe appeared, his handsome face exuding a lazy charm, with a bright smile that made him look like a harmless boy next door. Of course, if he were wearing shorts and flip-flops, the vibe would be even stronger. When they saw the newcomer, Tao God Tufeng and the Mountain Lord's expressions froze, and their hearts trembled. Are you Qi Yuan? The Mountain Lord couldn't help but ask. He had memorized the list of notorious figures to be cleared during this sweep. Qi Yuan was a mysterious divine lord, suspected to have ties to the Mountain of 10,000 Gods. None of that mattered now. Entering the Forbidden Land meant certain death. But now, the aura emanating from Qi Yuan was not that of a divine lord. Could it be an ancient powerhouse in disguise? Without hesitation, the Mountain Lord and Tao God Tufeng, without even exchanging a glance, immediately retreated into the dark void. Although they hadn't tested Qi Yuan's strength, survival was always the top priority. Hey, why are you short-legged folks running? How about this? I'll perform the surgery for free. Not enough money. Give me your phone. The two Tao Gods' true spirits fled through the dark void, with Qi Yuan's voice chasing after them. In the dark void, the Mountain Lord's face showed astonishment. This is the dark void. How is he catching up? The dark void was intricate and complex. A slight deviation could mean being millions of realms off course. Even if a Tao Lord entered, they wouldn't be able to catch up to him and Tao God Tufeng. Because my legs are long. Qi Yuan lifted his robe, revealing his long legs, as he blocked the path of Tao God Tufeng and the Mountain Lord. The expressions of the two Tao Gods changed drastically. They realized that the environment within the dark void had shifted dramatically, and their path had been cut off by the man before them. Even a Tao Lord couldn't achieve such a feat. This level of control and understanding of the dark void was terrifying. Who are you? The Mountain Lord asked, his aura surging as he prepared to strike at any moment. Me. Didn't you already say my name? Qi Yuan replied calmly. I'm Qi Yuan, the wanted criminal you're here to eliminate. I've been waiting for you. The two Tao Gods' faces shifted repeatedly, unsure how to respond. Don't be afraid. I'm not a villain like you. I'm a good person. See, you came here to kill me, and I'm still offering to perform free surgery to make your legs longer so you can walk faster. That way, if there's another cycle, maybe you can walk faster and die quicker. Qi Yuan's words were a jumbled mess, leaving the Mountain Lord and Tao God Tufeng utterly confused. At this point, the Mountain Lord could only say, Sir, we are acting under the orders of the Heavenly God to clear the Forbidden Land. Since you are one of us, why not come with us to Heavenly King Mountain? I will personally help you resolve the curse of sinking on you. He chose to yield, while also using the Heavenly God's name to pressure Qi Yuan. After all, the Heavenly God's reputation was something even Tao Gods who had overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations had to respect. Oh, you're from the 9 Heavens Divine Palace? Qi Yuan murmured. That makes sense. Other than the Heavenly God, that little guy, who else would keep an eye on the Forbidden Land for no reason? Hearing this, Tao God Tufeng and the Mountain Lord's hearts skipped a beat, as if they had heard something unbelievable. This madman actually called the Heavenly God a little guy. Who was he? A wave of intense confusion washed over them, followed by despair. We're doomed. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. In the dark void, Qi Yuan made a casual move. The sword of forgetting swung. In an instant, the rules within the dark void twisted and snapped. Countless rays of light, threads, and colors were kneaded together like a chaotic mix of paint. An ancient blood-red longsword traversed the dark void, and all the great Tao rules bowed beneath its feet. I am the slaughter. Tao God Tufeng roared, his great Tao rules erupting as he sought to fight for survival. This was his strongest attack, capable of effortlessly annihilating a divine lord. It could even injure the true spirit of a weaker Tao God. However, his attack, his great Tao rules, were utterly fragile against that sword. Or rather, it wasn't that they were fragile, they simply didn't resist. It was as if his attack didn't even notice the sword, allowing it to cut through unimpeded. The sword of forgetting. It could make all the rules of the world forget its existence. Tao God Tufeng's eyes widened in fury, his true spirit trembling. How can this be? He was confused, unwilling to accept this. Even if a 6th-stage young god were before him, he would have the courage to fight. But now, how could he possibly face Qi Yuan's sword? Forgetting is the true return to nothingness, Qi Yuan's calm and clear voice echoed. Tao God Tu Feng's body stiffened, and his true spirit froze in place. All his memories were annihilated in that moment, including the great Tao rules he had mastered. His body shattered, his true spirit extinguished, and all traces of Tao God Tu Feng's existence in the world were completely erased. Not far away, the Mountain Lord of Heavenly King Mountain watched this scene, trembling, his shock impossible to dissipate. That was a Tao God. Killed so effortlessly, without any resistance. This Qi Yuan, had he already overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations, or was he even stronger? After all, even the Tao Lord in the Forbidden Land wouldn't have found it so easy to kill Tao God Tu Feng. At this moment, Qi Yuan's gaze turned to the Mountain Lord of Heavenly King Mountain. You're well behaved. You didn't resist or try to escape. How could the Mountain Lord dare to run? When he saw Qi Yuan chasing after them, moving through the dark void as easily as a fish through water, he knew this Qi Yuan was an enemy he couldn't defeat. This old man's life is at your disposal, Senior. If you find me unworthy to serve, you may erase my mind and consciousness. The Mountain Lord bowed his head, his attitude extremely humble. His meaning was simple, he was willing to submit to Qi Yuan. If Qi Yuan disliked him as a being, he could erase his consciousness and mind. Then, a new being would be born from his true spirit, one completely loyal to Qi Yuan. Interesting, Qi Yuan glanced at the Mountain Lord, his gaze seeming to span millennia. This Mountain Lord of Heavenly King Mountain had his true spirit annihilated at least 100 times. His consciousness, personality, and spirit had been replaced countless times. His original personality had been that of a peerless genius, always striving to overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations and create a method for the true spirit to never perish. Time and time again, he had barely survived the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations, his true spirit annihilated, his personality and consciousness destroyed, only for a new personality to emerge. However, despite surviving the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations so many times, he had never succeeded. This showed just how difficult it was to truly overcome them. Perfect, I need a coachman. Qi Yuan waved his hand, choosing not to kill the Mountain Lord. This new Mountain Lord's personality and consciousness hadn't been around for long. In Qi Yuan's eyes, he wasn't yet a white moonlight. Heavenly King Mountain is at your service. The Mountain Lord quickly kowtowed. His title was Heavenly King Mountain. Good, Qi Yuan nodded, then asked, where is the Heavenly God now? This game had several objectives for Qi Yuan. The first mission goal was to protect the Forbidden Land. The second goal was to achieve reincarnation. The third goal was to attain the Yang God realm. The final goal was to return to nothingness. These goals overlapped in some ways. Before addressing them, he needed to meet the Heavenly God and settle old grievances. After all, the Heavenly God was the last breath of San Sheng's junior brother. There had always been enmity between them. San Sheng's junior brother had worked tirelessly, fighting against return to nothingness. Even when San Sheng gave up the chance to reach the 6th stage of Yang God, choosing the path of reincarnation with no future, his junior brother had continued without complaint, battling return to nothingness. However, the junior brother's strength was relatively weak, and he eventually perished in return to nothingness, leaving behind only a breath, a lingering obsession. Unlike the junior brother's admiration and respect for San Sheng, this obsession harbored resentment, even hatred, towards San Sheng. This obsession also made it its mission to return to nothingness. However, its methods were brutal and explosive. To return to nothingness, the Heavenly God would create even more, return to nothingness. In fact, the Heavenly God had established the 9 Heavens Divine Palace, aiming to bring the Yin realm under its control, using the beings of the Yin realm as scapegoats for the Yang realm beings to overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations. The Heavenly God, the Mountain Lord hesitated for a moment before finally saying, this old man does not know. But if Master goes to the 9 Heavens Divine Palace, you might have a chance to meet the Heavenly God. His meaning was clear. If Qi Yuan forced his way in and subdued the 9 Heavens Divine Palace, he might be able to meet the Heavenly God. Shall we go to the 9 Heavens Divine Palace? Qi Yuan was ready to act immediately. The Mountain Lord's face showed a troubled expression. The headquarters of the 9 Heavens Divine Palace is located in the far north of the Rebirth Realm. The journey is long, and the Mountain of 10,000 Gods and the Soul-Severing Bridge are at war. The path through the Dark Void has been cut off. To reach the 9 Heavens Divine Palace, we must pass through the battlefield. The Mountain of 10,000 Gods and the Soul-Severing Bridge were old rivals, and these two great powers often clashed. This time, the scale of the battle was immense. Even the strongest from both sides had taken action, using their immense power to cut off the dark void. Thus, even a Tao god couldn't simply traverse it, they would have to pass through the battlefield. "Oh, that's a small matter," Qi Yuan said dismissively. He was, after all, from the Mountain of 10,000 Gods. Passing through shouldn't be a problem. Return to nothingness. The cycle. Forgetting. Reincarnation. Inside the carriage, Qi Yuan lay lazily, a hint of worry between his brows. Although he was different from San Sheng, having cultivated the netherworld and possessing an advantage in pursuing the path of reincarnation, Qi Yuan's vision of reincarnation was anything but ordinary. After all, any Tao Lord could establish a netherworld and bring the dead back to life. But Qi Yuan's reincarnation was about resisting, return to nothingness. Even if a being perished in, return to nothingness, their true spirit annihilated, forgotten by all, and not a trace left in the cosmic river, they could still emerge through reincarnation. The reincarnation he sought would essentially make him an enemy of all cultivators in the Yin realm, Rebirth realm, and Yang realm. For example, the Heavenly Emperor was incredibly powerful, right? The Heavenly Emperor had many methods to effortlessly annihilate a person, erasing their true spirit. If Qi Yuan wanted to revive that person and bring them back through reincarnation, he would essentially be opposing the Heavenly Emperor's Tao. Thus, his reincarnation would make him an enemy of the entire world. Not only an enemy of the world, but also, resisting the curse of sinking. The curse of sinking that San Sheng had suffered was particularly terrifying. Only the sword of forgetting could withstand it. The curse of sinking keeps eroding. I'm afraid I might awaken the innate void saint body. While using the sword of forgetting to resist the curse of sinking in the Forbidden Land, Qi Yuan's physique had begun to change, even awakening a special constitution of the innate void saint body. Void, representing emptiness, signifying nothingness. If he used the sword of forgetting too much, there might come a day when Qi Yuan would cease to exist, leaving behind only a symbol, like stillness. Heavenly King Mountain, tell me, if I were to forget, return to nothingness, would I have a chance to resist it? Qi Yuan asked thoughtfully. The Great Forgetfulness Sutra was a powerful ability, his innate divine power. If he used the Great Forgetfulness Sutra as a foundation to counter, return to nothingness, would he have a chance to achieve reincarnation? All fallen beings would forget the fact of their death. Master, what you speak of is too profound for this old man, the Mountain Lord said cautiously. However, forgetting is indeed a great terror. It is also a form of return to nothingness. Many Tao gods, Tao lords, and even powerhouses above the fifth stage of Yang God like to use the method of forgetting to completely erase beings. They would erase all traces of a being across all timelines, and even the one who performed the erasure would forget the act. In this way, that being would cease to exist. It was like someone tearing a page out of a history book in a feudal dynasty. After 1,000 years, who would remember the person recorded on that page? You've reminded me. Forgetting is also return to nothingness, Qi Yuan said, somewhat disappointed. The heavenly god was return to nothingness. The Mountain Lord of Heavenly King Mountain was return to nothingness. The Heavenly Emperor was return to nothingness. He himself was return to nothingness. His Great Forgetfulness Sutra was return to nothingness. The Sword of Forgetting was also return to nothingness. How could he possibly counter return to nothingness? Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. All the methods in the mortal world are part of return to nothingness. On the Origin Mountain, San Sheng had seen the paths of other 6th stage Yang gods. Those 6th stage Yang god powerhouses had also extended olive branches to San Sheng, inviting him to walk the same path. Among them was one named Wu Fa, number law. Wu Fa, meaning conservation. In Wu Fa's world, there was no supernatural factors, no living beings, or strange phenomena. All visible matter was erased. In Wu Fa's world, energy and matter were conserved. This was somewhat similar to San Sheng's path of the cycle. However, the real world, whether it was the Yin realm, the Rebirth realm, or the Yang realm, was not truly conserved. Cultivation is too difficult. This game is also too hard to play. Qi Yuan couldn't help but sigh. The Mountain Lord of Heavenly King Mountain, who was serving as his coachman, heard this but didn't dare to offer any opinion. The flames of war spread. Terrifying divine power blocked the sky, splitting the world in two, even cutting through the dark void. To the north and south of this divine barrier, the armies of the soul-severing bridge and the mountain of 10,000 gods were stationed. Countless war fortresses were scattered across the land, each filled with iron-clad soldiers. A single war fortress could trample the beings of a small universe. And there were thousands of such war fortresses here. In one of the war fortresses, the 11th Divine Son, Tong Xuan, wore military armor. As he studied the battle reports, his brow furrowed. The Pingya fortress remains unconquered. The front lines are at a stalemate. This is difficult. It had been thousands of years since Pillar Tian Kai had arrived at the front lines, but the battle lines had not truly advanced. For Tong Xuan, a divine son eager to make a name for himself, this was not good news. The Pingya fortress now has 37 divine lords stationed there. It will be difficult to advance in the short term, a subordinate said. Tong Xuan stroked his chin, deep in thought. At that moment, another subordinate spoke up. Your Highness, we've just received news that your brother, Qi Yuan, has applied to visit the northern front to meet an old friend. Tong Xuan's expression changed sharply. He had some grievances with Qi Yuan, even resentment. If Qi Yuan hadn't reached the Divine Lord realm and avoided conscription, he might now be serving under Tong Xuan, sent to attack the Pingya fortress. Tong Xuan held a letter in his hand, reading it carefully. The letter was simple, just a standard pass permit. Although the soul-severing bridge and the mountain of 10,000 gods were at war, cutting off the path and even the dark void, many true gods could still pass through as long as they obtained the necessary permits. War was war, but business was business. Despite the long-standing conflict between the mountain of 10,000 gods and the soul-severing bridge, the nearby merchant guilds and auction houses were places where people from both sides could coexist peacefully. Wanting to go north, Tong Xuan held the pass permit, a smile forming on his face. This brother of mine comes to the front lines but doesn't pay his respects to me, his elder brother, or to Father God. How presumptuous. Tong Xuan was about to withhold the pass permit. Tell the true God in charge that there's an issue with this pass permit. It will remain with me for now, Tong Xuan said with a cold laugh. The prolonged stalemate at the Pingya fortress had already put him in a bad mood. Now that Qi Yuan wanted to pass through and had crossed his path, he naturally had to make things difficult. On the other side, Divine Son Ha Jin and Divine Daughter Shi Shui wore troubled expressions. Qi Yuan's pass permit has been blocked by Tong Xuan. How despicable. Tong Xuan is deliberately causing trouble. They had helped Qi Yuan with his pass application. Although they had some past grievances with Qi Yuan, after Qi Yuan reached the Divine Lord realm, they had sent many gifts to smooth things over. Now that Qi Yuan wanted to pass through, they had naturally wanted to handle the matter properly. But then this happened, that despicable Tong Xuan. Ha Jin's expression darkened. He disliked Tong Xuan, but given their strength, they were in no position to confront him. Qi Yuan will be here soon. If he finds out about this. Shi Shui frowned. They had prepared a banquet for Qi Yuan's visit. The hall was filled with rare divine materials, immortal wines, and sacred delicacies. And now, this mess had occurred. Long time no see. At that moment, a voice rang out. Ha Jin and Shi Shui perked up, knowing it was Qi Yuan. Brother Qi Yuan, long time no see. You look as spirited as ever, Ha Jin and Shi Shui quickly said. Their minds raced, trying to figure out how to explain the issue with the pass permit. Now that Qi Yuan was a divine lord, surpassing them in strength, they naturally couldn't call him younger brother anymore. In the mountain of 10,000 gods, strength was respected. It has been a while, 3,000 years, Qi Yuan sighed. Time flies. It had already been 3,000 years. But as soon as he finished the thought, he froze. Wait, he had never actually met Ha Jin and Shi Shui before. This was their first meeting. Oh no, he had messed up the opening line. That was a bit of a low EQ move. But what's done is done. Let's move on. Brother Qi Yuan, which old friend are you planning to visit on the northern front? Ha Jin asked. He was preparing to bring up Tong Xuan at the right moment. A little brother named Heavenly God. Heavenly God. Ha Jin was stunned. That term sounded familiar. The Heavenly God of the Nine Heavens Divine Palace. Or just someone with the same name. After some thought, Ha Jin concluded it must be the latter. After all, even the Divine Emperor might not be able to meet the Heavenly God. As for Qi Yuan, how could he possibly meet him? At the same time, he was shocked that Qi Yuan's friend had the audacity to name himself Heavenly God. Didn't he know to avoid using the names of the revered? That name is quite bold. Not just anyone can use the name, Heavenly God, Shi Shui casually remarked. Is that so? Qi Yuan was momentarily puzzled. But he felt the name was quite ordinary. Besides, what someone chose to call themselves was their own freedom. When I meet the Heavenly God, I'll pass on your words, Qi Yuan said to Shi Shui. Shi Shui was momentarily stunned, a sense of foreboding rising in her heart. At that moment, Ha Jin saw the opportunity and was about to bring up the matter with Tong Xuan. But then, suddenly, an intense divine light descended. The entire front line seemed enveloped by this terrifying divine radiance. In that moment, the world seemed to consist of nothing but this light. It was like the sun, like a cosmic wonder. Everyone noticed this terrifying fluctuation. Ha Jin and Shi Shui were no exception. A Tao God? No, this is Pillar Tian Kai. Has the soul-severing bridge launched an attack? Everyone was confused. Amid the confusion, Ha Jin and Shi Shui's expressions shifted from bewilderment to excitement. In the center of the hall, a figure of light appeared. It stood between heaven and earth, yet seemed not to belong to this world. Its features were indistinct, even its gender unclear. Divine light coiled around its body, and the great Tao seemed to radiate from it. Greetings, Father God. Without hesitation, Ha Jin and Shi Shui immediately bowed. After bowing, they glanced at Qi Yuan, signaling him to do the same. What are you standing there for? Bo, this is Father God, one of the 12 pillars of the Mountain of 10,000 Gods, Tian Kai. Why has he come here? But in the next moment, something even more unexpected happened. Senior, your arrival was so discreet that I had no choice but to come personally. I hope you will not take offense. Pillar Tian Kai spoke, his voice distant, as if not from this world. Qi Yuan shrugged and smiled. It's nothing. Ha Jin and Shi Shui's hearts were rocked by waves of shock. What did Father God just call Qi Yuan? Senior, could it be that Qi Yuan had already overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations? Was he now on par with the Divine Emperor? Pillar Tian Kai looked at Qi Yuan with respect. The Divine Emperor has mentioned that he has long wished to pay his respects to you. On the Mountain of 10,000 Gods, Qi Yuan had once invited the Heitian Divine Lord. He had left afterward, but the aura he had exuded had been detected by the Master of the Mountain of 10,000 Gods, the Divine Emperor. Thus, Tian Kai had also learned some information about Qi Yuan. For a mysterious existence like Qi Yuan, a powerhouse like the Divine Emperor, who had overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations, naturally wanted to meet him. After all, there was a chance to gain valuable insights from Qi Yuan. So this time, upon learning of Qi Yuan's arrival, Pillar Tian Kai had immediately appeared. Once I finish my business, I will pay him a visit, Qi Yuan said calmly. Regarding reincarnation and return to nothingness, he had many thoughts. He would meet the Divine Emperor and other powerhouses to understand, return to nothingness. After all cultivators were, in a sense, part of, return to nothingness. At that moment, Pillar Tian Kai extended his hand, and a bubble appeared. Inside the bubble was a being, frozen in time and space. This is Tong Xuan. He has offended you and is now imprisoned. He is at your disposal. With a wave of his hand, Pillar Tian Kai sent the bubble floating toward Qi Yuan. It was as if he was tossing a marble, not his own offspring. Inside the bubble, Tong Xuan's face was filled with terror, his fear at its peak. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Tong Xuan whimpered, his fear reaching its peak. He had been cultivating in his cave abode when suddenly, Father God Tian Kai had captured him. Father God hadn't asked him a single question, simply taking him away. He was confused and bewildered. Now, through the bubble, he saw Qi Yuan. Confusion, shock, and deep regret flooded his heart. I was wrong. Spare me, spare me. When he saw how respectfully Father God Tian Kai treated Qi Yuan, as if facing the Divine Emperor himself, Tong Xuan lost all courage and immediately knelt, begging for mercy. The longer one lived, the more one feared death. Looking at Tong Xuan, Qi Yuan saw through many things with a single glance. He couldn't help but recall a famous saying. Then, he couldn't resist plagiarizing it. He doesn't realize he was wrong, he just realizes he's about to die. As the words fell, Tong Xuan, who had repeatedly caused trouble for Qi Yuan, was completely annihilated. The death of this promising offspring meant nothing to Pillar Tian Kai. It was as insignificant as swatting a mosquito. Yet, at this moment, Qi Yuan's face showed a trace of melancholy. Am I not also, return to nothingness? He had casually killed Tong Xuan. Wasn't that also a form of, return to nothingness? In a sense, return to nothingness, existed because of people like him. Especially in Blue Star, where certain countries love to wipe out entire families. If those people were to cross over and achieve cultivation success, return to nothingness would likely spread across all realms and universes. Ha Jin and Shi Shui looked serious, unsure of what Qi Yuan meant. Pillar Tian Kai, however, seemed to have heard something profound. He pondered deeply, lost in thought. All right, now that I have the pass permit, it's time for me to leave and head to the far north to meet the heavenly god. After bidding farewell to everyone, Qi Yuan's figure dissipated, leaving only Pillar Tian Kai, Ha Jin, and Shi Shui behind. Pillar Tian Kai's expression was profound. The heavenly god, that is. A being even more terrifying than the divine emperor, rumored to be a sixth-stage young god powerhouse. Pillar Tian Kai murmured to himself. From Qi Yuan's tone, it seemed a battle was imminent. The rebirth realm is about to be thrown into chaos. This battle will undoubtedly draw the attention of many. Who will win, and who will lose? Reason told Tian Kai that Qi Yuan was destined to lose. Although Qi Yuan's strength was mysterious and unfathomable, he was still within the realm of the fifth stage of Yang God, likely on par with the divine emperor. However, the heavenly god was rumored to be a legendary sixth-stage Yang God existence, someone even the divine emperor would look up to. But since Qi Yuan dared to challenge the heavenly god, he must have some confidence. At this level, a 99% chance of success and a 1% chance were no different. Without absolute superiority and the certainty of annihilation, anything could happen. At the same time, in the rebirth realm, countless powerhouses awoke. Qi Yuan intends to challenge the heavenly god. Someone dares to fight the heavenly god. The rebirth realm was in an uproar. Countless powerhouses whispered among themselves, spreading the news. Who is this Qi Yuan? No one had heard of Qi Yuan before. He was a reclusive powerhouse who had emerged from obscurity to challenge the heavenly god. How could this not shake the world? Many powerhouses and influential figures awoke, turning their gazes to the far north. They wanted to witness how this world-shaking battle would unfold. Someone dares to challenge the heavenly god. This is good news for us. The Black Crow Tao Lord spoke, his voice devoid of emotion. The Cosmic Alliance had always been at odds with the Nine Heavens Divine Palace. Countless battles had been fought between them. There had even been instances of Tao gods, and even Tao lords, falling in battle. The Cosmic Alliance was deeply wary of the heavenly god. Who is this Qi Yuan, and why is he opposing the heavenly god? A Tao lord hidden in the shadows asked. They were extremely curious about Qi Yuan's origins. After all, the enemy of their enemy could be a potential ally. Of course, they needed to figure out Qi Yuan's background. What if Qi Yuan was also an enemy of the Cosmic Alliance? Most beings in the Cosmic Alliance hailed from the Yin realm and were not on good terms with those from the Yang realm and the Rebirth realm. Especially the Nine Heavens Divine Palace, which sought to conquer the Yin realm and use its inhabitants to nurture beings from the Yang realm, helping them transcend the three calamities and three tribulations. I have observed his fate. He has ties to the Yin realm, the Rebirth realm, and the Yang realm, a mirror spoke. This mirror was a Tao Lord of the Cosmic Alliance, one who mastered the mysterious Tao of fate. Ties to all three realms. The Black Crow Tao Lord's expression was complex. Generally, beings from the Yin realm found it difficult to establish connections with the Yang realm. After all, it was hard enough for Yin realm beings to enter the Rebirth realm, let alone the Yang realm. But the Yang realm was different. Beings from the Yang realm found it easier to enter the Rebirth realm and the Yin realm. The fact that Qi Yuan had ties to all three realms suggested he likely originated from the Yang realm. It seems he is an enemy, not a friend, the shadowy Tao Lord said. Due to the Nine Heavens Divine Palace, they held no fondness for beings from the Yang realm. His entanglement with the Yin realm runs the deepest, the mirror added. What? The other Tao Lords were shocked. This statement implied that the mysterious powerhouse named Qi Yuan might have originated from the Yin realm. Only then would his ties to the Yin realm be the strongest. Qi Yuan, is there such a figure in the Yin realm? The Black Crow Tao Lord murmured. He waved his hand. Instantly, a sea of stars appeared. Within the sea of stars were swirling clouds of mystery. The clouds rotated, exuding an aura of sacred inviolability. but most of the sea of stars was shrouded in impenetrable darkness. The mirror's gaze fell on these clouds, scanning one area and shaking its head, then moving to another and shaking its head again. He is not one of our old friends. Or perhaps, he is hiding too deeply. These Tao Lords had existed for an extremely long time, ancient even by their standards. Older than us? Someone asked, puzzled. The Tao Lords present extended their true spirits, probing all the secrets of the Yin realm. Such a powerhouse seems non-existent, or perhaps, he has reached the fourth stage of Yang God. There were almost no matches for Qi Yuan. Most importantly, if the other party deliberately concealed themselves, they might not be found. We should ask some newcomers, the Black Crow Tao Lord suggested. The other Tao Lords were somewhat dismissive. The chances of a newcomer being relevant were too low. However, they still chose to inquire. After all, the world was full of impossibilities. The Black Crow Tao Lord waved his hand, sending a ripple through the sea of stars. About 10 breaths later, suddenly, the Black Crow Tao Lord's eyes lit up with intense excitement. I've found something. The others immediately turned to him, their expressions eager. Although Tao Lords, and even Yang Gods, could conceal their emotions, there were times when they allowed their true natures to show anger when angry, surprise when surprised. This was also a form of cultivation. Otherwise, if one remained completely unflappable, there was a risk of becoming like the fourth stage of Yang God, transforming into a rule of heaven and earth. In the bright cosmic sea, there is a powerhouse named Qi Yuan. Although only at the third stage of Yang God, his combat power is astonishing. He can fight Tao Lords. What? A third stage Yang God fighting Tao Lords? The Tao Lords were truly shocked this time. The gap between the third stage of Yang God and a Tao Lord was something everyone understood. There had never been an instance of a third stage Yang God fighting a Tao God, let alone defeating a Tao Lord. Such talent is enough to shake the world. He might be comparable to the legendary San Sheng of the Yang realm. As Tao Lords, they had been in the rebirth realm for countless years. They were also privy to many secrets of the Yang realm. The path to the fourth stage of Yang God was created by the sixth stage Yang God, done. Lost in self, true spirit annihilated, existing only in the past and future, never appearing in the present. The path of the Tao Lord, however, was forged by San Sheng. It was said that this peerless genius was friends with sixth stage Yang Gods, rejecting the paths of many such powerhouses to walk his own solitary path. In the end, this powerhouse created the path of the cycle. All fifth stage Yang Gods could enter the cycle, becoming omniscient and omnipotent. However, this powerhouse also offended, returned to nothingness, and was ultimately annihilated. There were rumors that the Forbidden Land was his domain. If he enters the Yang realm, he will surely reach the sixth stage of Yang God. A Tao Lord's spirit was invigorated, his eyes filled with longing. Beings from the Yang realm could enter the rebirth realm, and even the Yin realm, at great cost. But beings from the Yin realm had no way to enter the Yang realm. Without entering the Yang realm, how could one reach the origin mountain and ascend to the sixth stage of Yang God? Entering the Yang realm, the origin mountain, a chance at the sixth stage of Yang God. These Tao Lords considered themselves geniuses, their talents world-shaking in their respective eras. If they could enter the Yang realm and reach the origin mountain, they might have a chance to climb even higher. However, the gates to the Yang realm remained firmly shut. These Tao Lords struggled to survive in the rebirth realm, let alone launch a counteroffensive into the Yang realm. But, what if Qi Yuan's appearance gave them hope? Is it possible that Qi Yuan could become the leader of our cosmic alliance? A Tao Lord asked. The others were intrigued. If this battle happens, no matter how strong the heavenly god is, I dare to help Qi Yuan fight him. The Black Crow Tao Lord declared, his fighting spirit blazing. This was the first time in countless years that he had a chance to enter the Yang realm. If he missed this opportunity, he might never have another. These Tao Lords had lived through countless epochs, experienced countless cycles. If they could enter the Yang realm and seize the chance to reach the origin mountain, they might glimpse the heights of the sixth stage of Yang God. I agree, even if I die, I will have no regrets. At this moment, these Tao Lords, with their complex thoughts and varied personalities, were united in purpose. After all, the path to the Yang realm lay before them. If they didn't seize this opportunity, they would never forgive themselves. Even if there was a high chance of dying in battle, so what? Compared to glimpsing the heights of the sixth stage of Yang God, death 1,000 times over was worth it. With our strength and Qi Yuan's, we dare to draw our swords against the heavenly god. What of the sixth stage of Yang God? These Dao lords chose to step out of their cycles, to help Qi Yuan face the heavenly god. Stepping out of the cycle risked the annihilation of their true spirits. But seeing that sliver of hope, they were willing to fight for it. Of course, this was all contingent on Qi Yuan being the Qi Yuan they knew. Meanwhile, in the distant far north, the carriage moved slowly, with the mountain lord of Heavenly King Mountain transformed into a coachman, his expression solemn as he drove the horses. Their speed seemed slow, but in reality, it was incredibly fast. In a single breath, they traversed countless light years. Inside the carriage, Qi Yuan stretched lazily. Indeed, handsome people are always the center of attention. Just going to meet the heavenly god, and so many people are watching. I should have charged admission and made millions. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. The carriage moved slowly through the vast, snow-covered landscape. Heavy snow fell from the sky, lightning crackled like thunder, and fierce winds howled. The closer they got to the far north, the more terrifying celestial phenomena and cosmic wonders appeared everywhere. Even a true god would find it difficult to traverse such a place. However, with the mountain lord of Heavenly King Mountain, a Tao god, driving the carriage, these obstacles were nothing. Qi Yuan reclined lazily, gazing at the endless snow and strange cosmic phenomena outside. There are quite a few powerhouses in this world. Behind these countless wonders, Qi Yuan's omniscience and omnipotence allowed him to sense many powerful beings. These powerhouses, whether as a wisp of true spirit or a trace of aura, hung high in the sky, watching from an immeasurable distance, as if observing a battle. Leave, only a sixth stage Yang God can challenge the heavenly god. At that moment, a fragmented voice reached Qi Yuan's ears. Clearly, someone was sending a friendly signal. Or perhaps, they were an enemy of the heavenly god and didn't want to see Qi Yuan walk to his death. But the sender didn't want to reveal their identity, so they sent the message covertly. Qi Yuan smiled. The voice was like a message in a bottle, with no clear recipient, making it impossible for him to respond directly. After all, the sender was clearly a powerhouse who had overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations, on par with the divine emperor, with unfathomable abilities. However, Qi Yuan's special abilities were still intact. He could even converse with the soundless sound, like his master, Ruan Yishi, let alone this voice. Thank you for the reminder. Qi Yuan replied lightly. At the same time, in an unknown space beyond the heavens, a shadow seemed to shudder. He actually knows it's me. He had overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations and had even visited the Origin Mountain, standing at the peak just below the 6th stage of Yang God. One could say that, with no 6th stage Yang God present, he was nearly invincible. His covert message, he believed, would be difficult even for a legendary 6th stage Yang God to detect and respond to. Yet, Qi Yuan had replied so effortlessly. How could he not be shocked? If he can reply, it means he can pinpoint my location. If this revealed too much information. At their level, true forms were rarely revealed. Their true bodies existed in secrecy and mystery. Who is he? He was deeply curious about Qi Yuan's identity. After all, if this feat were revealed, even the top powerhouses would be astonished. Meanwhile, in a spiritual realm, whispers began to spread. Rumors say this Qi Yuan hails from the Yin realm. A being from the Yin realm. Strange. Most beings from the Yin realm cannot overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations. How does he possess such strength? Could it be that he has already overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations? Very few beings could overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations on their own. Many powerhouses relied on the 9 heavens divine palace to achieve this. In return, these powerhouses would assist the heavenly god in resisting, return to nothingness. His strength is unfathomable, but compared to the heavenly god, he should still be at a disadvantage. Indeed, no matter what, the heavenly god has reached the 6th stage of Yang God. Although it's somewhat different from other 6th stage Yang gods and not complete, it's still beyond our ability to contend with. Although Qi Yuan was confident in challenging the heavenly god, in the eyes of the top powerhouses, there was a 99% chance he would lose. In this world, there had never been an instance of a 5th stage Yang God challenging a 6th stage Yang God. Even among these top powerhouses, no one dared to challenge a 6th stage Yang God. Because, before the challenge even began, they knew they would lose, or even die. Or perhaps, the moment they entertained the thought of challenging a sixth-stage young god, something catastrophic would happen. Sixth-stage young gods were not just at that level because of their cultivation. Rather, the sixth stage of young god was the ultimate destination of all cultivation paths. Anything is possible. Variables exist. Perhaps, Qi Yuan might win this battle, the shadowy figure said. The fact that Qi Yuan could reply to him suggested he was no ordinary figure. Perhaps he even had a sliver of hope against the heavenly god. Variables and possibilities are all in the hands of sixth-stage young gods. How can a fifth-stage young god win? Someone laughed. The path of cultivation was indeed filled with variables and possibilities. Especially at their level, even a 1 in a million chance could become absolute. Aside from return to nothingness, is there anything a sixth-stage young god cannot handle? Even return to nothingness is on par with sixth-stage young gods and cannot harm them in the slightest. Can a sixth-stage young god handle another sixth-stage young god? Someone asked. Instantly, the spiritual realm fell silent. No one spoke. Sixth-stage young gods couldn't handle many things. They couldn't break the cycle. They couldn't truly confront fourth-stage young gods who existed in the past and future. They couldn't completely eradicate, return to nothingness. Because, in a sense, these were all within the domain of sixth-stage young gods. He's here. At that moment, a murmur rang out. The spiritual realm fell completely silent, and many gazes turned toward the far north, their eyes flickering. Because Qi Yuan had arrived at the far north. A great battle was about to begin. Many eyes, including the shadowy figure and the divine emperor, turned to the far north. In a corner of the vast void, a carriage came to a stop. A tall, slender man lifted the curtain and stepped out. The world was vast, and he walked alone. Many eyes watched this young man, but they kept their distance. After all, a battle at this level could easily spread to them. It might even shatter a third or half of the rebirth realm, or perhaps all of it. That must be him, Qi Yuan. The Black Crow Tao Lord said, his gaze focused. In the Yin realm, there were no images of Qi Yuan. Because other powerhouses couldn't record Qi Yuan's appearance, let alone manifest it. But now, seeing Qi Yuan, they felt in their hearts that this was the Qi Yuan from the Yin realm, the one they knew. Several Tao Lords hid in the darkness, their forms concealed by divine treasures. Should we make contact now? Someone asked. It's too late now. We must strike the heavenly god by surprise. Any information leakage could ruin our plans. The Tao Lords reached a consensus. Once the plan was set, their true spirits were all enveloped by this divine treasure, preventing any information from leaking. Even their thoughts were isolated. Revealing ourselves now would alert the enemy. These Tao Lords were prepared to die. The battle between Qi Yuan and the heavenly god was their only chance to enter the Yang realm. Once in the Yang realm, they might also reach the Origin Mountain, ascend to the peak, and achieve the sixth stage of Yang God. Although the odds were less than 1 in a billion. After all, over countless epochs and ages, countless beings had visited the Origin Mountain, but only a handful had reached the sixth stage of Yang God. Do not act rashly. Do everything to conceal yourselves. The heavenly god is coming. The Black Crow Tao Lord spoke, his body trembling with fear. Because, above the far north, the sky seemed to split open, and a terrifying being was about to descend. Although it hadn't revealed its form or leaked any aura, these fifth-stage Yang God Tao Lords couldn't help but tremble inwardly. Of course, this was related to the heavenly god being an unconventional sixth-stage Yang God. It wasn't like those legitimate sixth-stage Yang gods. Under the extreme light of myriad Taos, the heavenly god's form was invisible, unfathomable, unseeable, unharmable, and unsmellable. All the Tao Lords and top powerhouses tried to sense it, but they found nothing. It was as if the heavenly god didn't exist. Is this the sixth stage of Yang God? I know it's here, but I can't perceive it at all. What is the heavenly god? The path of the sixth stage of Yang God is mysterious and unfathomable. For fifth stage Yang gods, the sixth stage was indeed too powerful. It was like the symbols representing the sixth stage of Yang God on the Origin Mountain. There weren't many. But these fifth stage Yang gods couldn't even count how many there were. Sixth stage Yang gods could interfere with the perceptions of all living beings. They could even manipulate the great Tao, the rules of heaven and earth, and the rules of the universe, dictating them with a single word. Tao Lords could set the rules within their own universes, but a sixth stage Yang god's word could dictate the rules of countless worlds across the myriad realms. I take back my earlier words. Qi Yuan stands no chance against the heavenly God. A powerhouse who had overcome the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations spoke. With a single glance, the heavenly God was completely unknown to him. But if the heavenly God were to glance at him, all his secrets would be laid bare. With such a gap, how could they fight? Without seeing a 6th stage young God, how could one understand their power? Unfortunately, 5th stage young gods didn't even have the right to see a 6th stage young God. So how could Qi Yuan fight this battle? At the same time, in the far north, an ethereal, desolate voice echoed. Or rather, this voice resonated in the hearts of all beings in the rebirth realm. Senior brother San Sheng, it's been a long time. This voice, ancient and distant, fell into the hearts of countless beings, stirring various thoughts. Wait, Qi Yuan is the heavenly God's senior brother. San Sheng, that name, wait, the cycle. San Sheng, the lord of the cycle who rejected the 6th stage of young God. These top powerhouses were filled with fear and shock. The name San Sheng, though hidden and ancient, was known to many. After all, this figure was one of the most legendary in countless epics. Inside the divine treasure, a Tao Lord's body trembled violently. He is Lord San Sheng. Back in the Yin realm, he had served a great and majestic being. That being could answer countless questions and guide all directions with a single word. That being could have stepped into the 5th stage of young God but chose the 4th stage instead. 70% of his achievements as a Tao Lord were thanks to San Sheng. Now, hearing that Qi Yuan was San Sheng, how could he not be shocked? Though he was a Tao Lord, he regarded San Sheng as a teacher. He's San Sheng, what do we do? He's not from the Yin realm. The Tao Lords hesitated, unsure of what to do. If Qi Yuan were from the Yin realm, they would naturally ally with him to infiltrate the Yang realm. But if he wasn't, strange, he clearly has the deepest ties to the Yin realm. How could he be San Sheng from the Yang realm? The Tao Lord who mastered fate was puzzled and confused. At that moment, in the Forbidden Land, a woman surrounded by snow-covered trees opened her eyes, a trace of killing intent emanating from her. San Sheng isn't dead yet. Her consciousness awakened, and her form entered the dark void. I am not your senior brother San Sheng, and you are not my junior brother. Qi Yuan spoke, his tone calm. He also couldn't see the heavenly God's form. Hearing Qi Yuan's words, the heavenly God seemed to fall into a long silence. You're right, senior brother San Sheng is a part of you, and I am merely a part of your junior brother. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Heavenly God, born from a single strand of obsession left by San Sheng's junior brother, is an unconventional 6th stage Yang God. In the past, the name San Sheng was known to all in the Yang realm. However, many overlooked Heavenly God, San Sheng's junior brother. His talent was also terrifying. If not for San Sheng, he might have been one of the most dazzling lights of that era. But his brilliance was completely overshadowed by San Sheng. In Qi Yuan's view, if following the script, San Sheng's junior brother, Heavenly God, would have likely turned to darkness long ago. Yet, Heavenly God did not fall into darkness. He remained diligent and even helped San Sheng fill in the gaps. Only at the end, when their clan was devoured by, returned to nothingness, and he had no escape, did he finally perish. A strand of obsession was born, transforming into Heavenly God, to oppose, return to nothingness. And thus, he became an unconventional 6th stage Yang God. The purpose of his existence was to oppose, return to nothingness. Or rather, to fulfill the responsibility that San Sheng had left unfinished. Qi Yuan stood in the void, yet Heavenly God did not appear before him. He sighed softly. No matter what happened in the past, in the end, we stand on opposing sides. San Sheng's junior brother held no hatred for San Sheng. However, his obsession was a different matter. Especially since Heavenly God's actions had placed him in direct opposition to Qi Yuan. If the other 6th stage Yang gods used relatively gentle methods to oppose, return to nothingness, including San Sheng, Heavenly God's methods were exceptionally fierce. In fact, Heavenly God established the 9 heavens divine palace, aiming to enslave the Yin realm and even the rebirth realm, using the beings of the Yin realm and rebirth realm to mass-produce experts who had survived the 3 calamities and 3 tribulations, all to oppose, return to nothingness. However, this method came at the cost of sacrificing the lives of those in the Yin realm. As for the Forbidden Land, Heavenly God and the Heavenly Emperor held different views. For those who mistakenly entered the Forbidden Land, the Heavenly Emperor chose to make them pay a price to remove the curse of sinking. Heavenly God's choice, however, was simple: kill. Because, to Heavenly God, any being that entered the Forbidden Land and died to return to nothingness would only strengthen return to nothingness. Qi Yuan stood quietly. Heavenly God was a tough opponent. As an unconventional sixth-stage Yang God, even Qi Yuan, in his current state, had no certainty of victory. In fact, the disadvantage lay with him. Unless he truly grasped the cycle of reincarnation and stepped into the next realm. The wind ceased, the rain stopped. A silent battle intent began to spread. Across the cosmos, many experts retreated, using secret techniques to protect themselves. A battle between experts of this level, even a slight leakage of power, could injure them. Is it finally going to start? How many years has it been since we've seen a battle of this magnitude? This old man wants to see just how far the gap is between us and them. For countless years, the world had not witnessed a battle of such intensity. The experts of the Cosmic Alliance now found themselves in a dilemma. To help or not to help? After all, this Qi Yuan had deep ties to the Yang realm. What if Qi Yuan sided with the Yang realm? If they intervened and suffered heavy losses, only for Qi Yuan to then ally with the Yang realm and turn against them, the Cosmic Alliance would likely be annihilated immediately. Of course, even if Qi Yuan were a being of the Yin realm, this possibility still existed. But this was always a gamble. To help or not to help? Black Crow Dao Lord asked. If we don't help, there's a high chance Qi Yuan will perish in this battle. This is our only chance, our only opportunity to enter the Yang realm, our only chance to reach the pinnacle. The Dao Lords whispered among themselves, many turning their gazes toward the Dao Lord who controlled the Dao of Fate. The bronze mirror's voice hesitated, then distorted. I can't see clearly, I can't see clearly. When it came to battles of this level, even as a Dao Lord who controlled fate, he could not see the outcome, nor could he see the path ahead. Yet, at that moment, the Dao Lords of the Cosmic Alliance suddenly froze. Not just them, but all the other experts around them also stared in shock. Because, the battle did not begin. What began was silence, or rather, annihilation. Heavenly God had died. Or rather, Heavenly God was in the process of vanishing. This was enough to shock everyone and terrify them. Heavenly God was an unconventional sixth-stage Yang God. And yet, he had just died. I am unwilling. As Heavenly God dissolved, his voice carried a tone of unwillingness, yet his expression remained calm. Hearing this, Qi Yuan's gaze dimmed slightly. Heavenly God was dissolving, countless informational particles dissipating, and Qi Yuan came to understand many things. Heavenly God was a strand of obsession left behind by his junior brother. The purpose of this obsession had always been to resolve, return to nothingness. Back then, San Sheng had disappeared, seeking the Tao of reincarnation. He alone had opposed, return to nothingness, eventually falling in battle, leaving behind only this obsession to continue the fight against, return to nothingness. Thus, Heavenly God's entire existence had been dedicated to opposing, return to nothingness. He had even walked the path of an unconventional sixth-stage Yang God. Yet, no matter how powerful Heavenly God became, he was not a perfect sixth-stage Yang God, merely a strand of obsession. The junior brother's obsession was to resolve, return to nothingness. But in the junior brother's heart, San Sheng would walk the correct path of reincarnation and ultimately resolve, return to nothingness. In his heart, San Sheng was perfect, invincible, omnipotent. Later, San Sheng, due to the death of his junior brother, found his Tao heart flawed. Unable to grasp the Tao of reincarnation, he chose the Tao of cycles as a second option. Because of this, the obsession that became Heavenly God was disappointed. San Sheng had not walked the path of reincarnation, but had instead chosen the path of cycles. So, what was the meaning of it all? It would have been better to have walked another sixth-stage Yang God path from the beginning. But what disappointed Heavenly God the most was that San Sheng had abandoned the Tao of reincarnation, which he had so fervently pursued, all because of his junior brother's death. In his eyes, San Sheng was perfect, omnipotent. Yet, he had abandoned the Tao of reincarnation out of brotherly affection, choosing instead the Tao of cycles. Heavenly God was deeply disappointed, deeply pained. Since his senior brother could not do it, then he would resolve, return to nothingness, himself. Thus, Heavenly God established the Nine Heavens Divine Palace, continuously creating experts to oppose and resolve, return to nothingness. But, When Heavenly God saw Qi Yuan, the obsession stirred. Heavenly God seemed to see a chance for Qi Yuan to resolve, return to nothingness. This time, the obsession once again chose to believe in Qi Yuan. He believed Qi Yuan, or rather, San Sheng, was still that omnipotent senior brother. The one who could shield him from the storm, who could completely resolve, return to nothingness. Thus, in Heavenly God's design, if San Sheng did not exist, he would resolve, return to nothingness, himself. But upon seeing San Sheng, he would once again choose to believe in San Sheng, and thus, vanish. This was his design, his obsession. Heavenly God's eyes were clear, his body dissolving, his true spirit extinguishing. San Sheng, no, Qi Yuan, if you cannot resolve, return to nothingness. I will surely return. Qi Yuan looked at Heavenly God, as if seeing his junior brother. Heavenly God's true spirit was dissolving. His power, due to his obsession, enveloped Qi Yuan. A vast amount of power, along with the laws of the Tao, poured into Qi Yuan. This was all the experience Heavenly God had accumulated over the years in opposing return to nothingness, as well as Heavenly God's understanding of return to nothingness, and his insights into the sixth stage Yang God. Qi Yuan now understood that over the years, the curse of sinking that Heavenly God had endured in opposing return to nothingness was no less severe than what San Sheng had suffered in creating the Tao of cycles. In truth, Heavenly God was already at the end of his rope. Perhaps it would not be long before the last strand of his obsession dissipated, leaving only a symbol in the world. And then, slowly forgotten by all, completely returning to nothingness. A whisper echoed in Qi Yuan's ears at that moment. Qi Yuan seemed to see his junior brother, alone, opposing, return to nothingness, protecting their clan, bleeding out at the edge of the cosmos, his breath fading, murmuring to himself. Senior brother San Sheng, when we were young, it was you who protected me, protected our sect, protected our clan. I always stood behind you, enjoying these things without a care. Now that you are gone, it is my turn to protect the clan in your stead. In truth, you owe nothing to the clan, nor do I, yet they always blamed you, truly hateful. Senior brother San Sheng, I know you will surely find the most perfect reincarnation. The phantom dissipated, like a bubble in a dream, as if it had never existed. Heavenly God's fierce voice rang out at that moment. You and I shall both return to nothingness, he is foolish. After this roar, he finally vanished, returning to nothingness. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. The Heavenly God has perished. The powerful beings observing this scene were all stunned. The Heavenly God has actually perished. Did he dissipate his obsession upon seeing Qi Yuan? It seems the relationship between the Heavenly God and San Sheng is not just that of ordinary senior and junior brothers. These powerful beings sighed, their expressions varied. A shadowy figure also murmured, I was the only one who believed in him in this battle, but I never expected it to end like this. Many powerful beings had thought that this battle would be extremely fierce, ending with Qi Yuan's defeat. After all, there had never been an example of someone at the 5th stage of Yang God defeating someone at the 6th stage of Yang God. But no one expected that Qi Yuan would survive, win so easily. Upon seeing Qi Yuan, the Heavenly God simply perished. It was too simple, too unexpected, beyond everyone's imagination. After all, it defied logic and reason. Of course, they didn't know that the Heavenly God had already been at the end of his rope. Over the years, resisting return to nothingness, his injuries were not much lighter than San Sheng's. San Sheng is actually a part of him. Will the world gain another 6th stage Yang God being? Pillar Tien Kai murmured, his gaze complex. That was the 6th stage of Yang God, a being that existed eternally across the heavens and the earth, throughout all realms. San Sheng did not enter the 6th stage of Yang God. With his pride and his pursuit of the great Tao, would he simply step into the 6th stage of Yang God? The Divine Emperor had a different perspective. For them, reaching the 6th stage of Yang God was extremely difficult, almost impossible, with not even a glimmer of light visible. But for San Sheng, it was nothing. After all, the legendary Heavenly Emperor had a relationship with San Sheng that was both mentor and friend. There were even rumors that the Heavenly Emperor was able to step into the 6th stage of Yang God because of San Sheng's guidance. After the journey to Origin Mountain, everyone believed that San Sheng would definitely step into the 6th stage of Yang God. But who would have thought that San Sheng would choose not to follow the path of others, wanting to forge his own path? He refused to enter the 6th stage of Young God. With such talent and pride, how could he easily step into the 6th stage of Young God? The heavenly God entered the 6th stage of Young God, and the heavenly Emperor also entered the 6th stage of Young God. If I could become friends with him, perhaps. The divine Emperor sighed, his thoughts wandering. Fortunately, through Tian Kai's connections, he had the opportunity to meet with Qi Yuan. If Qi Yuan could impart some wisdom and give him some guidance, the benefits would be unimaginable. The many powerful beings in the distance were all moved, their hearts filled with various thoughts. Who wouldn't want to befriend Qi Yuan, to befriend San Sheng? Even a little bit of their wisdom would be like the sound of the great Tao to them. However, when they looked towards Qi Yuan, they found that his figure had disappeared at that moment. It was as if he had never appeared. Where did he go? All the powerful beings and leaders were puzzled, even the Tao Lords of the Cosmic Alliance was surprised. Qi Yuan had disappeared right under their noses. Origin Mountain. The sound of dripping water echoed as the heavenly Emperor, dressed in a white robe, held a teapot in one hand and brewed tea with the other. The tea boiled, steam rising. The heavenly Emperor shook his hand, causing more steam to rise, evenly distributing the tea leaves and water. Beings like us, originally have no meaning in this world. If there is any meaning, it is, to find an opponent and surpass them. The heavenly Emperor smiled lightly. A cup of hot tea was poured into the cup, instantly cooling. Qi Yuan took a sip, finding it slightly bitter. Is this the thinking of all 6th stage Yang God beings? The 6th stage of Yang God was the pinnacle of cultivation. No matter how far one walked, it was still the 6th stage of Yang God. In this world, one must always find something to do, the heavenly Emperor said. Last time, you told me that, all beings are me, is a good path. If all beings were the heavenly Emperor, all at the 6th stage of Yang God, then, return to nothingness, would be unable to devour them. This was also a method to resist, return to nothingness. If other cultivators resisted, return to nothingness, for survival. Then for 6th stage Yang God beings, it was more about tempering themselves, or finding an opponent to give their existence some meaning. All beings are me, and I am constantly growing stronger. Compared to the last time I saw you, I have grown stronger, perhaps 100 million times. The heavenly Emperor casually mentioned a terrifying number. Back then, he was already at the 6th stage of Yang God. 100 million times stronger, what kind of concept was that? However, in this lifetime, I'm afraid it will be difficult for me to surpass, return to nothingness. The heavenly Emperor changed the subject, looking at Qi Yuan. This was what he truly wanted to express. I am also a part of, return to nothingness, all beings are, return to nothingness. Therefore, I must be stronger than me plus, return to nothingness. He grew stronger, return to nothingness, also grew stronger. He was considered a part of, return to nothingness. Therefore, no matter how strong he became, he could not surpass, return to nothingness. After all, the other 6th stage Yang God beings were also considered part of, return to nothingness. He was no exception. Hearing this, Qi Yuan fell silent, then said, so, you resist, return to nothingness, to improve yourselves. Something like that, the heavenly Emperor said. Time is too short, living beings, must always find something to do, always have a goal to strive for. All 6th stage Yang God beings regarded, return to nothingness, as a goal to strive for. If, at the beginning, a certain 6th stage Yang God being's strength was close to, return to nothingness. After so many years, they were infinitely close, but never truly surpassed it. This was also the path and amusement of these 6th stage Yang God beings over the endless years. Too omniscient and omnipotent, having seen too many sights in this world. So-called morality, ethics, and all other cognitions seemed insignificant in the eyes of 6th stage Yang God beings. In their eyes, only, return to nothingness, and their own great Tao held some importance. After all, there weren't many interesting or challenging things left for them. It was like, with the strength of a 6th stage Yang God being, they could cheat in any game in the world. Only with, return to nothingness, did they need to take it step by step, slowly playing, slowly grinding. Sigh, I'm still young, haven't lived long, and haven't developed such profound thoughts and deep connotations as you. Qi Yuan said honestly. In fact, he admired those who were open-minded, saw through worldly affairs, or had found their own path. I resist, return to nothingness, simply because I'm a mundane person. Although he had cultivated immortality, Qi Yuan always felt that he was a mundane person, without the demeanor of a powerful being. The battles between powerful beings often involved casually affecting an entire galaxy, causing the deaths of billions of living beings. Those powerful beings were ruthless, not even blinking an eye, nor caring if their eyes were sore. Qi Yuan couldn't do that, he liked to blink. Every time he killed an enemy, he was also very careful, controlling his spiritual power to avoid harming the innocent. He didn't even kill an ant. Of course, the flies and mosquitoes buzzing around his ears were exceptions. So Qi Yuan didn't have the mindset of a powerful being, he always thought of himself as a mundane person. My heart is too soft. Qi Yuan sighed. As for killing someone's entire family, wiping out their entire clan, that wasn't his fault. Moreover, was it the same? I don't want to see mortals struggling all their lives just to survive. I don't want to see the kind-hearted die from misfortune. I don't want to see the lovely fall into dire straits. I don't want to see the tyrannical live too comfortably. I don't want to see the foul-mouthed enjoy a wicked life. I also don't want to see the devoted destroyed by betrayal, the promiscuous die from loyalty, the sincere slandered, the 8 sufferings of life, everywhere unattainable. There were too many things Qi Yuan didn't want to see. Especially the foul-mouthed enjoying a wicked life. Qi Yuan wasn't good at arguing, and was socially awkward, he had never won an online argument. If his arguing skills improved, he would delete the part about the foul-mouthed. He would support the foul-mouthed enjoying a wicked life. Qi Yuan was also a very complex person. Or perhaps, all living beings in this world were complex. The scheming conspirator also had things they cherished. The high-ranking official who contributed greatly to the ages also had moral flaws. Even saints had selfish desires. So-called right and wrong, to some extent, were defined by the world, or perhaps, depended on whose perspective one took. From different perspectives, the answers were different. Of course, it could also depend on who held the power of discourse. I also don't want to see innocent ants being crushed by me. Now that I think about it, when I was 13, I accidentally spilled a cup of boiling water, killing 3 ants. I was a minor, protected by the law, not legally responsible. Also, I have a mental illness. But, I feel guilty. Those were 3 ants, although they were worker ants, busy all their lives dedicating themselves. In the eyes of us cultivators, perhaps it was even helping them escape suffering. But, I shouldn't judge their lives, arbitrarily deciding their fate, even if, in the eyes of most, I might have been doing them a favor. Do you understand? Qi Yuan looked at the Heavenly Emperor, his emotions genuine. The Heavenly Emperor leisurely picked up a cup of tea, sipping it slowly. If it were before, I would say you're sick, sentimental, childish, but now, good luck, Qi Yuan. I also want to see if your path of reincarnation can truly resist, return to nothingness. Why resist, return to nothingness? Actually, aren't I also, return to nothingness? Qi Yuan took another sip of tea. What has, return to nothingness, done wrong? Why should we resist it? Quote. Return to nothingness hasn't done anything wrong. The Heavenly Emperor said. In fact, it is the first 6th stage young god in this world. Is that so? Qi Yuan's expression was calm. He finished the tea in one gulp. The tea is finished. I should go. The game isn't finished yet. I'm very busy. Next time. I'll come here to drink tea with you. After saying this, Qi Yuan's figure disappeared. On Origin Mountain, the Heavenly Emperor continued to leisurely drink his tea, as if Qi Yuan had never appeared. My special ability is to merge with all things. Merge with, return to nothingness, to create reincarnation, to solve, return to nothingness, to save those 3 ants. I need to understand them, know them. It's like, if I kill the Heavenly Emperor, to resurrect him, I need to know his divine abilities, great Tao, methods, everything. In an unknown place, Qi Yuan's clothes fluttered in the wind, rustling. He thought of many things, and understood many things. Reincarnation starts from the beginning, starts now. Merge with, return to nothingness. After becoming an yin god, Qi Yuan had obtained this special ability, but apart from merging with the gate of myriad principles, he rarely used it. This time, he chose to merge with, return to nothingness. He wanted to see those beings consumed by, return to nothingness. Without seeing those people, without seeing those beings, how could he pull them into his soul? 3 ants. I'm coming, Qi Yuan murmured, his figure completely disappearing. His consciousness also became muddled at this moment, like the sound of cicadas in the midday sun, sped up 100 times. Suddenly, an ice-cold can of Sprite exploded, like a signal. Spinning, flipping, time was pulled back to its normal trajectory. Moonwatch Continent, July Lake. The ancient tree reached into the sky, its height unknown, seemingly just a bit short of touching the stars. Old man, stop bragging, what faceless sword god, what outer realm demons, it's all just stories to scare children. In the tavern, a burly man, his face flushed with alcohol, spoke with disdain. You've told this story 100 times, we're all tired of it, change it up. Many martial artists joined in the jeering. The old man with a thick beard blushed, as if he had drunk fake wine. Sigh, the world is not worth it. The old man with the beard cursed as he left. When his figure reappeared, he was in a dilapidated temple. Inside the temple, there was a somewhat damaged statue. This statue did not have a face. Only 300 years, and it has already come to this. Sigh. The old man with the beard looked at the statue, his face filled with longing and memories, and a trace of awe. At this moment, a clear voice rang out. Old man, don't keep living in the past, people need to look forward. Maybe, in your heart, this person is very important, but to others, they have more important people, and things in their hearts. Get lost, you young brat, what do you know about the faceless sword god? The old man with the beard couldn't help but retort. No one in this world understands him better than me. The young man plagiarized a certain famous quote. At this moment, the old man with the beard seemed to realize something, suddenly turning around. He scrutinized the young man behind him, his eyes filled with doubt and uncertainty. His pupils trembled. You, Long Pan, it's been a long time, you're still as prone to blushing as ever. This young man was naturally Qi Yuan. He had merged with, returned to nothingness, originally intending to go to the very beginning, to see the 3 ants he had killed with boiling water. But instead, he ended up in Moonwatch Continent. Or rather, Moonwatch Continent after the Outer Realm demons had been destroyed. Long Pan was a divine realm expert who had lain in a coffin within the 5 Elements Forbidden Land. Back then, when Qi Yuan entered the 5 Elements Forbidden Land, he gained the recognition of the 5 Elements ancestors, obtaining control of the 5 Elements Forbidden Land and the divine reflections of the divine realm experts. Long Pan was one of them. From the memories of the divine reflections, Qi Yuan knew that Long Pan was very handsome and delicate, but prone to blushing. To avoid being looked down upon, he grew a thick beard. Long Pan's heart was shaken, still unable to believe it. After all, back then, Qi Yuan had entered the Earth's End alone, fighting the Outer Realm demons. How tragic, how heroic. He must have died without even ashes remaining. Don't get excited, I came from the future, here to take a look, but I ended up at the wrong time. Qi Yuan said. He glanced at the statue of the faceless sword god, slowly walking towards July Lake. July Lake held many memories for him. Long Pan's heart was in turmoil, the words, future, made him hesitant. This time, it's finally not snowing. July Lake shimmered, with white ducks and red feet, green carp jumping, and the ancient trees stretching endlessly. You, and Zhanghua, where are they? Qi Yuan asked casually. Being omniscient, he could easily know all the answers with a simple perception. But that would be boring. We were already at the end of our ropes. After coming out of the seal, learning that you alone had slaughtered all the Outer Realm demons, we all felt guilty. But also happy. Long Pan's voice was filled with nostalgia. The first to go was you, he was the strongest among us, but also the one who contributed the most each time, with the most hidden injuries. The second to go was Zhanghua. A month ago, Little Green also left. She was buried in the 5 Elements Forbidden Land, resting beside the 5 ancestors. Now, only I remain, clinging to life. Long Pan stammered, filled with memories of the past. Old friends gradually passed away, the world they once protected becoming more and more unfamiliar. He also seemed like a passerby in this world, in some corner, on some night, quietly passing away. When discovered, he would likely be treated as a dead vagrant. Wrapped in a straw mat, buried in a mass grave. No one in this world would remember him. Or rather, in the future timeline, apart from Qi Yuan, no one would remember this handsome, bearded man who blushed easily. Back then, in the 5 Elements Forbidden Land, the 5 ancestors sacrificed themselves to empower me. I remember this kindness. At that time, I thought, if I could rebuild the earth, water, wind, and fire, turn the false into the real, the virtual into the actual, I would definitely bring the 5 ancestors back to the world of the living. Qi Yuan said. Beside him, Long Pan's body trembled violently. He remembered Qi Yuan's earlier words, that he came from the future. He seemed to realize something. Could it be? This was a bit too terrifying and unimaginable. Long Pan, do you think you, Tong, and Zhanghua, would be willing to enter my reincarnation? Qi Yuan asked. He respected people's opinions. His resurrection was different from that of other Yang gods. Perhaps, other Yang gods resurrected people with the same memories, the same person. While the Tao Lord resurrected true spirits in the cosmic Mother River. Qi Yuan's was to mark them and enter his reincarnation. Long Pan's body trembled slightly. Perhaps they would be willing. But my resurrection might infringe on people's privacy. Wouldn't that be a bit inappropriate? Qi Yuan hesitated. His resurrection also had several types, or rather, his method of resisting, return to nothingness, was to truly know all things, understand all things. The Tao gave birth to one gave birth to two gave birth to three gave birth to all things. All things belong to, return to nothingness. To resist, return to nothingness, is to resist all, including oneself. To understand, return to nothingness, is to understand all things, to understand everything in the world. It could be a gust of wind passing through a hall, a yeast cell sleeping soundly, or a pangolin laughing and playing. Merge with all things, mark them, enter his reincarnation. Ah, I forgot, they had once reflected their divine selves to me, I already know their privacy. Qi Yuan said. Hearing this, Long Pan's old face blushed again. His past had also been glimpsed by Qi Yuan. They probably wouldn't mind. Long Pan hesitated. Sigh, reincarnation is too difficult, the first step is to infringe on people's privacy. Qi Yuan sighed. Indeed, the path to great achievements is always fraught with difficulties. Running red lights, infringing on people's privacy, these were things Qi Yuan couldn't do. He had always been lawful good. Although, occasionally killing someone's entire family, wiping out their clan. But wasn't that influenced by the patriots of Blue Star? Moreover, was it the same? Killing someone's entire family doesn't affect never running a red light. In that case, I'll begin. Qi Yuan said. All right. Long Pan nodded vigorously. Qi Yuan closed his eyes. He began to use his special ability again. He merged with, return to nothingness. He merged with Moonwatch Continent. He merged with, the deceased metal ancestor, wood ancestor, water ancestor, fire ancestor, and earth ancestor, as well as the divine realm experts from the 5 elements Forbidden Land who had reflected their divine selves to him. Countless memories flooded into his mind once again. He seemed to see a cheerful blacksmith, diligently forging every day, sparks flying, always grinning from ear to ear. His life was monotonous, his favorite pastime was fishing. Every time he fished, he felt a great sense of satisfaction. He lived in his own little world. His wife often complained that he lacked ambition, destined to be a blacksmith in this small town forever. Then, the outer realm demons invaded. As the metal ancestor of the divine court, he charged to the front lines. Unfortunately, the strength of a divine realm giant was far inferior to those outer realm demons. A fishing line descended from the sky, the hook glinting, he was hooked. Just like the fish he usually caught. He died, only a skin remained in the world. That skin was the vessel of the metal attribute. This time, his wife cried her heart out, never again saying he lacked ambition. This is his story. Everyone's story, when you delve into it, is so touching. Qi Yuan sighed. Just like a dog kicked on the side of the road, if you delve into its heart, it also has its story, its joys and sorrows. Unfortunately, people are different, species are different, interests are entangled, survival of the fittest, all living beings have struggles. Now it's the fire ancestor's story. Now the earth ancestor. You, less than hour greater than, little green. He stood by the shore of July Lake, contemplating the pasts of these people, their lives. After an unknown amount of time, he opened his eyes, his gaze clear. Long Pan, who had been standing beside him, perked up, seemingly wanting to ask something but not daring to. No need to rush. When I return to the present world, they will naturally revive and reappear in the world. They can choose to live in the present or in the future. If they complain about me bringing them back to suffer in this world, they don't need to come to me, they can just return to nothingness. Hearing this, Long Pan's expression was filled with doubt and uncertainty. After all, without seeing the 5 ancestors revive and his old friends return to the world, he couldn't be sure. Qi Yuan didn't pay much attention to this. At that moment, a gentle woman's voice rang out. Dressed in a green robe, her figure was graceful. May I ask where you come from, your name, and what brings you to the Moon Emperor's dynasty? The woman's voice carried a hint of caution. Qi Yuan glanced at her and said softly, a guest from the heavens. With those words, his figure disappeared, leaving behind the stunned woman in green and the dazed Long Pan. It all felt like a dream. The wood attribute of the world, the ancient Qi Chuang is supreme. You should also be a part of my master, or rather, a coordinate. It's because of you that Xiaojia came to me. Qi Yuan reclined on a branch of the ancient Qi Chuang tree, his hand reaching up as if he could grasp the sun, moon, and stars. Grasping the sun and moon, plucking the stars, there is no one like me in this world. Qi Yuan murmured. With a wave of his hand, a faint fragrance wafted through the air. Jinli sat in Qi Yuan's arms, the confusion in her eyes vanishing, replaced by a gentle moonlight-like gaze. Actually, does this count as meeting many times before our official meeting? Qi Yuan asked. In all timelines, I want to be the first. The woman in his arms turned her head, her soft lips approaching. The desert was vast, with a long river but no setting sun. Indeed, this world without the sun and moon's light is missing my golden core. Your son has arrived, Qi Yuan muttered to himself. Ahead lay the city of no return. Back then, Qi Yuan had stood guard here alone, fighting against the demonic scourge. No, Xiaojia had been with him. Now, Qi Yuan stood there, gazing at the city walls from afar. The walls were empty, his gaze shifted, and in the distance, dust and sand filled the air as two figures trudged forward. One carried a military flag, the other held a jug of wine. Every few steps, they would stop to rest. In the future, they would go to the city of no return to stand guard, only to die from severe injuries. Qi Yuan glanced at them and then disappeared. He reappeared on a battlefield. Bloodstains were everywhere, with severed limbs and broken bodies scattered about. This was the burial ground of the soldiers who had died in the Songzi camp. Back then, I said I was destined to become a great Luo Golden Immortal, and I would remember them. Although my memory isn't great, I still remember them. Not only that, I not only remember these NPCs with stories, but I also remember those who didn't even have names, who only appeared as background characters, as mere numbers. I remember you. He looked at the corpses, some old and frail, some young and tender. Fathers, children, husbands, or just themselves. Qi Yuan looked at them seriously, committing them to memory, as well as the sand on the ground. After an unknown amount of time, he flashed away again. In a dilapidated village, in a pig pen, a pig was eating pigweed. The pig's diet didn't seem great, it was thin and pale. Is this the pig that Chen Zhao kept talking about not castrating? Canary's crisp voice rang out, clear and pleasant. Husband, although my body and heart are yours, castrating pigs is better done by you. Ning Dao, dressed in a black skirt, took a step back, her petite figure hiding behind Qi Yuan. Ah, Canary realized something and tightly grasped Qi Yuan's hand. I am the #1 beauty of Jopan Mountain, my body is precious, I won't castrate pigs. Clearly, she couldn't do such work either. Canary was still as proud and spoiled as ever. You all, Qi Yuan hesitated, before castrating the pig, shouldn't we ask for its opinion? Does it want to be castrated? Uncastrated pigs don't taste as good. It probably doesn't want to be eaten either. But if we don't eat it, people will starve. So complicated. Canary and Ning Dao whispered to each other. Right, ask Chen Zhao, it's his pig. He's dead. In this timeline, there's still a bit of his true spirit left. Qi Yuan waved his hand, and a trace of consciousness seemed to awaken in the dazed true spirit of the deceased Chen Zhao. He immediately saw Qi Yuan, as well as Canary and Ning Dao. Didn't I die? Could it be that after death, people really go to the underworld? He looked at Qi Yuan, extremely nervous. In his eyes, this person must be the ruler of the underworld, a deity. But why did he feel that this person resembled the guardian of the city of no return? Unfortunately, he couldn't see clearly. Facing such a being, he didn't know what to say. Chen Zhao, do you still want to castrate your pig? If you do it. Quote ... Chen Zhao ... Mortal Heart Realm. Qi Yuan stretched lazily. No wonder the Blood Sun Great Sage's lineage produced 2 young gods. They were lucky to find part of the Nenki Dao Lord's inheritance. This time, he had come to the Mortal Heart Realm. Here, he met many people and discovered things he had overlooked before. Wuxi comes from the Yin realm, a world created by the Nanki Tao Lord, a collapsed universe. No wonder the creatures that chased us here were so weak, it's because this place is also a dream of Nanki. The ancestral land is a product of the Yang realm. When I have time, I should visit the ancestral land's hometown. Back then, they helped me so much, I should repay them. Qi Yuan believed in repaying kindness. Here, I comprehended that all beings are me. In fact, this is also a precursor to my reincarnation. Qi Yuan's reincarnation to resist, return to nothingness, is to know all things, to know everything in the world. All beings are me, which is also part of it. Unfortunately, the concept of all beings being me has flaws. I was still weak back then. In that battle, everyone sacrificed themselves, like selling low-tier cards in teamfight tactics, just to chase after my 3-star 5 cost. Although I revived them with the concept of all beings being me, turning them into my nascent souls, someone like Venerable Tianbao who died early, only his memories were revived in my nascent soul. Now, I can truly remember him, and many others, many NPCs. Back then, in the group chat, Venerable Tianbao knew he was in danger and didn't have much time left. He wanted to give Qi Yuan the treasure for breaking through to true God. They had never met, and their only interaction was this. Later, the sky lit up, the night illuminated by a pillar of light, and Qi Yuan learned of Venerable Tianbao's death, met his granddaughter Wang Wenqi, and received the treasure for breaking through to true God. After an unknown amount of time, Qi Yuan seemed lost in thought. Should I go see ancient God Yuan? Could she be a fellow countryman, Yuan Shen? Qi Yuan thought about it and finally decided not to. He looked up, through the ages, and seemed to see the swaying heavenly pillar. The heavenly pillar was the backbone of the mortal heart realm. It's time to see her. Qi Yuan recalled his 3 meetings with the foodless Holy Mother. He sighed inwardly. In Wuxi's timeline, the first little Wuxi was weak and pitiful. The second time he met Wuxi, she discovered the truth. She understood why, as a devouring primordial and innate primordial, she could eat fish. It turned out she was eating Qi Yuan's blood. At that time, with the characteristics of the devouring primordial and her strength, if she had acted, she might have been able to devour part of Qi Yuan across time and space, but in the end, she held back. The desires inherent in such a physique were hard for ordinary people to suppress and control. Even during their last meeting, she had a meal with Qi Yuan, eating ordinary fish. Back then, Qi Yuan didn't understand why she chewed so slowly. Was she afraid of fish bones? Now he realized she was enduring immense pain. She was also telling Qi Yuan that her strength wasn't solely due to her physique, she had overcome the desires it brought. She didn't eat him. It's time to see her. Thinking of Wuxi, Qi Yuan also remembered the cold, snow-white woman from the Cloud Dream Palace and the mischievous young Wuxi from the Tu Wu Great Realm. Half a breath later, a graceful figure appeared behind Qi Yuan. The woman was as cold as frost, as lonely as snow, with a trace of turbidity in the corners of her eyes, as if she had been in the forbidden land for too long, where time and space were chaotic, and curses of sinking clung to her. Or perhaps her eyes were tainted by hatred. She stared at Qi Yuan, her voice hoarse. Should I call you master, or disciple? Or, cycle? Her laugh carried a hint of grievance. Gongsheng. Robot 01 stood beside Qi Yuan, holding a cat. The myriad paths are composed of 0 and 1. 01, you're right. Games are made of 0 and 1, the present world is just a large-scale game. If return to nothingness is 0, representing nothingness, then my reincarnation is 1, representing existence. Master, how many levels of computer exams have you passed? Ahem, that's not important. Do those programmers understand 0 and 1 better than me? Do they understand games better than me? Or do they understand world creation better than me? Probably not as much as you. 01's voice remained mechanical. It turned its head to look at the man in black ahead. Do you think if the Luo and Chen families hadn't been wiped out, he would still be determined to seek death? Probably not. Back then, he was probably more heartbroken than anything. Should I help you package this world and send it to you? No, don't. I still have to respect their privacy. Sigh, reincarnation is too hard. The myriad worlds should practice family planning. Otherwise, when will I ever finish walking through them, knowing all things, creating reincarnation? Hey, this stone, do you want to enter my reincarnation? But before you do, your privacy might be slightly exposed. I might see you bathing naked. Hey, why aren't you saying anything? Are you shy? Don't worry, I'm very humane, I'll delete the memories. Otherwise, with so many memories, my memory will be insufficient, and it'll be annoying if I lag. This stone doesn't understand human language. Little junior sister is better, rich and beautiful. Right, I'll go ask if junior sister's money is willing to enter my reincarnation. Junior sister's money is probably very obedient. Less than hour greater than in the divine wood universe. Black heaven exists in the past and the future, but not in the present. Am I in the past now? Qi Yuan wandered through the vast divine wood universe for a long, long time. Different timelines, different points in time. Unfortunately, he met many people, including Chen Kangbao. But he never found Shenling Xuan, the blind girl, or his master, Ruan Yishi. He understood that Shenling Xuan was a chosen one, a manifestation of a lingering thought from the ancient Qichuang tree. In a way, she was a part of his master. Does the fourth stage of Yang God exist only in the past and future? Even now, I can't see them. Qi Yuan felt lost. Back then, when he fought Black Heaven, it was also across time and space. They had never met face to face. His master, Ruan Yishi, was a sentient being born from the lingering thoughts of the fourth stage Yang God ancient Qichuang tree. Her existence was different from ordinary fourth stage Yang God beings. Ordinary fourth stage Yang God beings had no true spirit and existed only in the past and future. Only when they reached the second stage of solidification would they exist in the present. But she was born from a fourth stage Yang God being that existed in the past and future. Such an example was unique in all the myriad worlds. If not for Qi Yuan's special ability, she would not have gained sentience. Thus, she could only exist in the past and future. The reincarnation I seek is one without regrets, a perfect fulfillment of desires. I am still too weak now. Qi Yuan sighed. To see his master, he first needed to surpass the understanding of escape. Second, he needed to make a significant leap forward in his path of reincarnation. The divine wood universe was born because of you. Every blade of grass, every tree, every cycle of life and death here is a trace of your existence. Know all things, enter reincarnation. At this moment, Qi Yuan became a traveler. He walked through the divine wood universe across different timelines. He seemed to hear his own murmurs, telling the stories of Journey to the West and The Romance of the Eastern Chamber. He seemed to see an ancient Qichuang tree standing alone in the vast emptiness. The clouds drifted, the rain fell, but she couldn't hear the sound of the drizzle. She could only hear one person's voice. The lonely Qichuang in the wilderness had no one to share her thoughts with, but one person told her about many beautiful sights. The thunder in the sky deliberately fell silent, as if unwilling to speak to her. Fortunately, she had someone to confide in. In the wet marshes, the white mugwort and cocklebeers grew lush and beautiful, but she couldn't appreciate them. It seemed she was waiting for something. Know all things, understand all beings, master reincarnation. Master, I know too little about you. He walked through the entire divine wood universe. He saw flowers, grass, trees, insects, fish, birds, beasts, clouds, thunder, stones, and iron. But his understanding of his master remained limited. He had stillness, he had reincarnation, and though he could traverse time and space, he could never touch the traces of his master. He could only occasionally catch glimpses of some scenes and hear fragmented words. Hey, who are you? What's your name? Qi Yuan. Then I'll call myself Yuan Qi. No, Yuan Qi. Ruan Yishi. I want to open the 7 orifices. Who am I? Who are you? What's your name? Don't remember. No name. Then I'll call you Little Blood. Little Rogue. Blood Rogue. Let's get divorced. Stick together. ... Hey, did you give me my eyes? Countless whispers, murmurs, and fragmented images entered his eyes and ears. Qi Yuan felt as if he could reach out and touch them. But he never could. Reincarnation, what's still missing? Qi Yuan murmured. He didn't know how long he had walked, forgetting time. He left the divine wood universe. He seemed like a madman, a lunatic, or a cultivator with a poor memory. He traveled between the past and future while existing in the present. He knew all things, understood all things, and step by step perfected reincarnation. I forgot, I'm still missing a sword. The sword of forgetting. The sword of forgetting was forged from his 4th stage Yang God self, crafted by the Moneybags Tao God and the Sword Disciple. This sword could sever the curse of sinking. It could cut away excess memories. There were too many things in the myriad worlds, and too many possibilities across different timelines. The Great Forgetfulness Sutra couldn't make me forget. What about the Sword of Forgetting? I do not exist in the present, nor do I come from the present. I exist in the past and the future. Can I temporarily sever all the noisy memories, leaving only those related to my master? He seemed to have discovered something more pure now. So this is the Tao of escape. Is this the past and future of escape? Am I now at the 6th stage of Young God? Should I keep going? The path of reincarnation continued to expand, and Qi Yuan continued to walk alone. His strength and realm also continued to rise. He felt no fatigue, no weariness, wandering outside the timelines. His strength and realm continued to climb. First, he surpassed escape, then he surpassed the Heavenly Emperor, surpassed stillness. More and more 6th stage Young God beings were left behind. He seemed to be getting closer and closer to return to nothingness. One day, he grew tired, his legs sore, and he felt lonely. After all, he was a mundane person, walking around ants, and feeling lonely was normal. Together as one. At this moment, Xiao Jia in her red wedding dress appeared and said, "Qi Yuan, I am Xiao Jia. Let's walk together." This time, it wasn't a wooden sign. The end. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Kanglin Realm, Shengguang Sect. The morning bell rang continuously, as it always had. Wake up, wake up. The voice of the wooden cat puppet was as annoying as ever. Qi Yuan tossed a piece of dried fish at it, effectively silencing the wooden cat puppet. Only then did the noise finally cease. At that moment, a crisp voice sounded beside Qi Yuan. "Senior brother, get up already. Stop sleeping in, the sun is already shining on your butt." A graceful figure appeared in the seaside villa. That's right, after Qi Yuan's strength increased, he upgraded to a house befitting his status. This time, it was a seaside villa. What if there was no sea on Seven Colors Peak? He simply moved one there. Sigh, just a little longer. Qi Yuan stretched lazily, shifting into a more comfortable position. And what sun? Where is there a sun? As soon as Qi Yuan spoke, the several suns in the sky above Seven Colors Peak disappeared. Zhang Lingsu looked at Qi Yuan, hands on her hips. Sigh, senior brother, even Sister Ning Dao says you've been too weak lately. She won't even sleep with you at night anymore. Ahem, what nonsense are you talking about? Qi Yuan rolled out of bed like a carp leaping out of water. This was what they called a young god's role. I'm just tired from playing games. Qi Yuan yawned, looking listless. On his journey to resist, return to nothingness, he had been moving forward relentlessly. Some time ago, he expended a tremendous amount of energy to finally protect the Forbidden Land and break free from its sinking. He had also stepped into the realm of Young God. His Young God realm was actually quite ordinary. It wasn't as flashy as the stellar golden core, nor as powerful as the nascent souls of the innate gods. According to Qi Yuan's understanding, Young God, Young Goda his Young God was just a bit more, young. Young represents brightness and righteousness, symbolizing justice. This time, he didn't awaken any superpowers. Perhaps one day, when he had traveled through all the myriad worlds and seen all the sights, he would awaken a new ability. Senior brother, isn't the game over? Zhang Lingsu was a bit confused. She also knew a bit about stillness. Is the game over? Qi Yuan took a deep breath. Am I not still in the game? In fact, aren't the Kanglin realm and the Immortal realm also just games? Although Qi Yuan had a poor memory and a somewhat chaotic mind, being mentally ill didn't mean he was stupid. During the first game, or rather, in Moonwatch Continent, he had already realized that the so-called game was also reality or truth. But back then, he was too weak, living in a thatched hut. Moreover, his soul and true spirit were still fragile. Playing in the game for a long time consumed his true spirit. On top of that, the countless plots and complex human emotions also drained his true spirit. In Blue Star terms, it was like taking up memory. Qi Yuan's true spirit couldn't fully support the game's operation. So, he would selectively forget some things. This way, it was a win-win. He could also act more freely. After all, he was just a 200-month-old baby at the time. Constantly dealing with saving the world, national hatred, family grudges, and betrayal, so his young heart couldn't handle it. Wait, are we also part of the game? Zhang Lingsu's eyes widened, looking utterly adorable. Not just part of the game, but also within the dream of the Nenki Dao Lord. In fact, we don't exist. Qi Yuan said with a smile. At his current level, turning the virtual into reality and refining the false into truth was a trivial matter. No big deal. The false game has ended, and the real game, the one that belongs to me, has just begun. Qi Yuan said. His game was a long one. As a certain famous person once said, the road ahead is long, and the journey is far. If return to nothingness is represented by 0, then reincarnation is 1. To achieve 1, one must traverse all the myriad worlds, countless times, past and future. Examine every living being, every stone, every trace of nothingness. This isn't something that can be done in a short time. In other words, from now on, Qi Yuan will be playing a game in reality. A game of traveling the world. A game of traversing reincarnation. When I have seen all the sights in the world, Xiao Jia will truly have her own eyes. When I have heard all the sounds in the world, she will have her own ears. When I have greeted all living beings and nothingness in the world, she will be able to speak continuously. The game is always ongoing, the road is always being walked, and the scenery is always in my eyes. Qi Yuan's expression was somewhat desolate. He was already invincible. Even those at the 6th stage of Yang God were no match for him. But his journey was still long. Every space, every corner of time, every hidden place he needed to set foot in them, to see them. It was like a story he heard as a child. About throwing stranded fish on the beach back into the sea. Someone asked, there are so many fish, how can you save them all? Who cares? The person replied, this fish cares. For Qi Yuan, what he needed to do now was pick up every fish, save them from nothingness, and throw them into reincarnation. Unlike the person in the story who saved fish, Qi Yuan had plenty of time, eternal and infinite. Plus, he was fast. Though sometimes, Qi Yuan felt that he had been cultivating for too long, and his mind was in chaos. He didn't know what was right, what was wrong, what was good, what was evil. Fortunately, he was a Yang God now. Yang represents brightness and righteousness, so he was at least good. Representing correctness. So, when throwing those fish back into the sea, he would also ask, are you sunbathing? Do you want to go back to the sea? What if it was a misunderstanding? What if there was a fish that disliked its pale belly and preferred sunbathing on the sand to get a healthy tan? He wouldn't make decisions for others. Nor did he need the beings of the myriad worlds to kneel before him. After all, the education he received on Blue Star was about everyone standing tall. Alright, this time, I'll go to the Yang realm, to the ancestral land of the ancient clan, and have some fun. Although he was still sleeping here now, his path of reincarnation was constantly at play, entering countless reincarnations, countless times and spaces, bit by bit, understanding all living beings and inanimate objects in the myriad worlds. Senior brother, I'll go too. Zhang Lingsu said excitedly, but then she hesitated. Never mind, I won't go. I promised Qi Jianjun to go fishing. You guys, fishing fanatics. Qi Yuan was speechless. After Qi Jianjun returned, she took Jinli, Ning Dao, Canary, and the others fishing every day. During this time, they were probably fishing and playing in Purple Fate Heaven. Moreover, under the instigation of Horn's sister, they were planning to hold a fishing competition. The location would be the 12th heaven of the Immortal realm. After stepping into the Yang God realm, Qi Yuan reshaped the 9 heavens of the Immortal realm and the 12th heaven, also breaking the Immortal realm's lack of a future. Whoever catches the biggest fish, I'll crown them the universe's invincible fishing general. After saying this, Qi Yuan's figure disappeared. Going to the ancestral land, let's create a small account. Make it look ordinary, with low presence. After all, I need to observe living beings and stones every day. If I look too handsome, someone might mistake me for a pervert, right? Although Qi Yuan's path of reincarnation was observing the myriad worlds on his behalf, constantly perfecting reincarnation, he himself still needed to observe, right? To improve efficiency. It's just that when observing in person, it's easy to be mistaken for a pervert. Fortunately, he didn't have a phone, so he wouldn't be mistaken for a peeping Tom. The game begins. 3 years later, in a courtyard. I think, is there something wrong with little Yuan? Malnourished. Give him some nutritional supplements. I think, there's something wrong with his brain. He's already 3 years old, and he's still watching ants, playing with stones, and messing with mud. Definitely a bit mentally challenged. Wang Jiong next door was already running a family business and smuggling thunder or divine ducks at 3. It seems little Yuan needs some medicine to fix his brain. P.S. the extras are just random writings, updated sporadically. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. In the courtyard, various colors flowed and shifted. Qi Yuan squatted on the ground, intently watching the ants. The ants marched in formation, carrying crumbs of bread back to their nest. A figure in a wedding dress stood quietly in Qi Yuan's shadow, silent. "Cousin, are the ants that interesting?" A childish voice rang out. A plump young woman walked over, her belly swollen. She looked at Qi Yuan with a particularly complex expression. "It depends on who's watching the ants with you." Qi Yuan didn't look up, continuing to observe the ants, learning the story of each one. "Little Fang, don't follow your cousin's example. You'll go into business when you grow up." The plump young woman patted her belly as she spoke. From within the belly, a childish voice responded, tinged with dissatisfaction, resisting. "I don't want to go into business. I want to cultivate." Clearly, the one who had just spoken to Qi Yuan was the embryo inside the young woman's belly. That's right. In this ancestral land, children developed quickly. Even embryos had consciousness and could speak. Thus, Qi Yuan, who at 3 years old was still watching ants, playing in the mud, and playing house with his wedding dress, seemed particularly out of place. "All right, cultivate. My little Fang will surely become a god and an ancestor." The plump young woman laughed, clearly pleased. "About the time it takes for an incense stick to burn." The embryo, Qi Fang, twitched his eyelids. "Strange, in this timeline, my cousin should have died young. Why is he still alive?" Qi Fang was a regressor, having returned to his childhood. In the future, he would leave the celestial dragon firefly constellation and become an ancestral-level existence. He was only one step away from becoming a true primordial ancestor. However, before he could break through to the primordial ancestor level, a terrifying disaster struck. All living beings were annihilated in an instant. This annihilation was no less severe than return to nothingness, or perhaps it was another expression of return to nothingness. All the primordial ancestors, in that moment, sacrificed themselves to instantly reverse the timeline, turning cause into effect, reverting the world. Thus, he was reborn. At the same time, he also knew that this might not be the first time the world line had restarted. But each time, it ended with the annihilation of spirits. Could it be that there's also an ancestral-level powerhouse nearby who altered the timeline, indirectly affecting my cousin Qi Yuan and allowing him to survive? But even though he survived, his development is still slow. He's already 3 years old and still watches ants. I heard Uncle gave him a lot of nutritional supplements, but it didn't help. Xiao Jia, this is the golden light jade orchid. Before the divine wood universe was even born, there was one in the chaos. Unfortunately, you didn't have consciousness back then, so you couldn't see it bloom or smell its fragrance. Now, can you see it? Below the cliff, a fluid resembling lava flowed, and a golden light jade orchid grew at an angle. Its stem was like shattered jade, each segment emitting a faint green smoke. Its leaves were sword-shaped and narrow, with seal script flowing through their veins. When it bloomed, the edges were gold, the center a deep purple with pink stamens, the petals layered, and inside was a golden tassel. The orchid smells nice. The voice was ethereal, fragmented. Qi Yuan seemed to see Xiao Jia closing her eyes, breathing in the air of the world with all her might. Qi Yuan held Xiao Jia's cold hand, his face lighting up with surprise. "You can smell the fragrance now." Xiao Jia nodded timidly, her body leaning closer to Qi Yuan's. She seemed to want to remember Qi Yuan's scent. "It seems it won't be long before I can take you to watch movies, go to amusement parks, visit the Milky Way, and even black holes." Qi Yuan said. This world, he needed to traverse it all, to familiarize himself with every inch of land, every living being. As his familiarity grew, as reincarnation became complete, Xiao Jia would also truly become normal, emerging from nothingness. The lava-like fluid rose, blooming like 10,000 flowers, iron sparks flying. Wedding night," Xiao Jia stammered, her face looking somewhat anxious. Seeing this, Qi Yuan chuckled. "Hey, what are you thinking about?" He held Xiao Jia, just like watching the desert from the walls of the city of no return, or digging a hole to sleep in the ground. Life was already beautiful, but then, a voice shattered this beauty. "Human, can you trade this golden light jade orchid to me?" Qi Yuan looked over and saw a figure faintly visible in the mist not far away. The figure was wary of him, its gaze sweeping over the golden light jade orchid with a hint of desire. Being called, human, Qi Yuan felt slightly surprised. Ming, you're ruining the mood. The creature hidden in the mist was a member of the Ming tribe. Since the other called him, human, he called the other, Ming. It was like a cat calling a human, human, and a human calling a cat, cat. But I really need this golden light jade orchid. Our clan leader is injured and needs it for treatment. The Ming youth said, please, help me. I can trade. The Ming tribe was inherently kind. Otherwise, if it were another race, they might have directly attacked Qi Yuan in secret. By the way, is your partner suffering from some condition, missing her 5 senses? I'm willing to give her my 5 senses. The Ming youth said. Qi Yuan looked at the Ming youth and smiled. I appreciate your kindness. The youth's 5 senses were indeed precious, comparable to some supreme treasures. But giving them to Xiao Jia wouldn't work. Not enough. The Ming youth was disappointed, his heart anxious. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. Then, Qi Yuan's clear voice surprised him. How about this? You don't need the golden light jade orchid. I'll help you heal your clan leader instead. How does that sound? Qi Yuan said with a smile. The flower from earlier carried part of Xiao Jia's memories. If it were destroyed, it would, to some extent, delay the reconstruction of Xiao Jia's true spirit. Of course, that flower also had a faint consciousness of its own. The Ming youth was stunned. This person couldn't even heal his own partner, yet he wanted to heal their clan leader. He didn't quite believe in Qi Yuan's medical skills. All right. After much hesitation, the Ming youth finally nodded. Let's go, Xiao Jia. Let's visit the Ming tribe. We've checked off another new place. Qi Yuan held Xiao Jia's cold hand and followed the Ming youth, disappearing. Later, ancient records would note. A Ming child sought medicine and encountered a strange man who owned the herb. The Ming child offered to trade, but the strange man said, why bother with the herb? I can heal. He led them back to their ancestral land, causing an uproar. The strange man tapped the elder's spiritual platform, and the foul miasma dissipated. After the treatment, he left with the bride, leaving the Ming tribe in awe. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1.